I'ma get it, you know I be on the way. Yeah. You know I be on the way. Man on a mission, I'ma get it, you know I be on the way. Yeah, it's all hard, ain't no fear here. You ain't giving this to all, you steer clear. Never beat, I've been down and I reappear. You got some money on the line, you better put it here. Rolling in and doing that work. Check priorities, I'm doing that first. Checks big and I'm sure that hurts, but it's checkmate, we ain't selling short, know the work. Ain't nowhere to hide, you ain't gotta see me come and keep me on your mind, cause I be on the way. Yeah. You know I be on the way. Man on a mission, I'ma get it, you know I be on the way. Yeah, man we coming for them bags. If they said I couldn't have, get the team. I got a vision for the things you ain't believe. And here's the motto, hard work, this over everything. It's that comeback. I'm calling plays, hit the pass, then the run back. Yeah, I'm far ahead and gotta run laps. But we ain't letting up, we never done that. Ain't nowhere to hide. You ain't gotta see me come and keep me on your mind, cause I be on the way. Yeah. You know I be on the way. Man on a mission, I'ma get it, you know I be on the way. Yeah, I'm on the way. On the way. Yeah, on the way. I'm on the way. I'm on the way.
be the tripwire to, they've all got to push in towards the house.
Halfway through phase 2 and the fight back truly is on for Major Pride at the top. #1 rallying back against the MADBULLS here to try and get them spots, that guaranteed spot for PMGC. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Kyle Laris. And joining me once again, he's back from his nomadic ventures all the way to Poland. It's Max Mann. How are you doing, friend?
Dzień dobry, doing fantastic. Yeah, back from Poland, had a great time, and I'm back for some more action here. And as I said, Major Pride, they were looking so good. They got themselves, what, 3 wins in a row? So glad to see that PMGC race is a lot closer at the top. But some interesting teams that, while I was not here, actually stood up and were able to really put on a show. So I'm going to be intrigued to talk about these teams a bit more.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll get to talk about Dagestan later. I want to talk about them as well, let's be real. But what's also looking excellent over on social media is the hashtag PMPL EU. So go on over to all our socials and make sure you spam that hashtag. And also probably spam it in Max Mann's direction so he can be as annoyed as possible. That would be fantastic. What do you think, Max?
Oh, no, I like my own posts. You know that. You know that. That's all I do. Yeah, and we got a giveaway happening right now. If you want to win some cool skins, you can go there and say which team you think is going to win. Ooh, that's my plug. There you go.
Yeah, that's true. We have the killer whale parachute. I'm all about that. That's very exciting. But what I'm also all about is the predictions. And so far, so good for when we take a look at the average points. Man, the Jackie Max is absolutely blasting. He got 5 predictions right in a row in phase 2 so far. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't like that. I want to get a portion of those points, so I'm going to try and catch up. But yeah, Jackie's been on an absolute tear. And actually, Ginny too, not that far behind, like 0.03 behind Jackie. So I'll try my very best to catch up, but I haven't been as on point as well, actually, I've never been really on point on these. What am I saying? No, I'm just probably not going to win it. I don't know.
Some games have been quite unpredictable, I think is fair to say here. Let's take a look at the schedule, which is predictable for the day, as we're going to have 5 battlegrounds coming at you throughout the day. I should say, 5 games worth across the 3 battlegrounds here. So we'll be starting things on Erangel, as is always true here, Max, for the most part, when it comes to our 3-day cycle as time goes on. And of course, the cool thing about our maps is that actually Sanhok has been very, very exciting to watch. Ever since, obviously, we had the heal change, that has made Sanhok a lot more exciting because we're actually forcing these teams to have proper battles, and that's been good to watch.
Yeah, we're not seeing the hot drops happening too often now, so like teams actually have a chance to extend how they play the early game stage, and I still like how teams play it in the early stage. I think like PERMITTA is a team that had a good understanding of the early game stage of that map. They just need to try and do well on other battlegrounds. But yeah, Sanhok has been really, really fun to play, and especially, I would look to see if we can see Gladiators start to reclaim their past glory on that map, right? It seems like they have been struggling a little bit in the second phase so far, and we know that the PMGC race is getting a little bit close, so I'd like to see more presence from them. Gladiators not only on Sanhok, of course, but hopefully the other battlegrounds, because we know what they can do.
Well, for today, it will be Erangel, Miramar, Sanhok, Erangel, Miramar. As we take a look at our overalls here, as we have at the top, #1 for phase 2 so far, Major Pride. Man, what a rally back they have had here. I mean, of course, as we're both very aware, Titan had a phenomenal start here to phase 2, but petered off a little bit, but is still in that 3rd place, still looking for those top 3 spots.
Yeah, I was a little bit sad for Titan because I looked at day 1. I watched the entirety of day 1. I was like, oh, this is great. We're seeing Old Boy being the MVP of the day. IC being, I feel like, 1 elimination behind. Like, they were just popping off, which is the team what we wanted to see. But we saw something similar from them in phase 1 where they might just get that one big pop-off day, right? And after kind of fizzle out. And I just want to see more consistency from Titan. I feel like that is the thing we need to see from this team because we know they're not going to qualify through PMGC here. Their objective is to make it into Championship, and in Championship, try and be 1st place so they can make it into PMGC. So they can just keep on trying to learn, improve, and get better as time goes on. But the potential is definitely there.
Yeah, they have the chops, considering what we've been able to see from them. The big pop-off games that they have been able to show have been insane. So let's see if, you know, that can be replicated here down the line. 9th through 16th as well, though. And we take a look down towards 20th too here. A lot of the usual suspects down here, unfortunately, Max, trying to kind of bump themselves up. I'm surprised Shockwave's down in 16th. I felt like maybe they'd be able to do a little bit more than that, but...
That's what I was going to say. I want to see Shockwave do a lot better. I feel like we've seen what this team can do. Terminus in particular, Ace has had his good pop-off moments, right? But it is a lobby that we understand now is very CIS dominated, and a lot of the original Western European teams are standing to struggle if they do not bring big changes to the table. And I feel like Shockwave have shown that they can start fragging out, but fragging power is just not going to be enough. You need to start getting into the late game as a 4-3-man team. And unfortunately, we know they like to take early game fights, maybe lose a player here and there, but if they can just stick a little bit closer together and avoid those early game fight engages, I think that we have a high chance of them hopefully ranking up a bit higher, but it's not off to a good start this phase for sure.
Important ranks in phase 2, but more important ranks in those PMGC points as we take a look. For teams down towards the bottom here, it's given that they're not going to be making it via these PMGC points, what we want to see is that very top spot. I mean, there is a world technically where if somebody through 5th or 6th majorly popped off, maybe they could do something, but really we're looking at those top 3 spots right now, Max. Major Pride fought back against the tyranny of the MADBULLS in the previous phase, as it were. Gladiators, 100 points shy. Technically, this roster, I think, could be one to try and catch up, but they've not shown it so far in phase 2, that's for sure.
Clearly here, the fight that we're seeing, Kalaris, is Major Pride versus MADBULLS, aiming to qualify as the European representative for PMGC. But Gladiators, I think Blank had an interview with Kitsune where he said, oh, we're going to qualify. He seemed really confident they were going to qualify. I think there's a chance where for this PMPL season of Europe is not going to be the case, unless they have a big pop-off. It's going to be rough because MADBULLS are consistent. We've seen a lot more from Major Pride now, which I think Major Pride are currently playing with their best roster so far, so I really like what they're doing. But yeah, Gladiators, they got to be careful because it is not going to be easy to qualify through the champs, because we're looking at right now, S2G, next rare is going to be between those two teams, but teams that are going to be hungry to qualify is Regnum Kara. They popped off in PMRC, and Fireflux too, so everyone is going to be racing for that one qualification spot in the champs.
All right, well, let's take a look back and see what Dagestan was able to pull off 2 days ago, even I should say, because what they did on Erangel, the one Erangel we have for the day, Max, was nothing short of amazing.
These are the games where I'm salty I was not here. You know, that one, and of course the opening game from that we had from Titan. I was like, I really wanted to cover this at the end. But what an insane usage of smokes, especially. I was looking back on that game, and they were just surrounded by smokes the entirety of the game. You couldn't even see them. And their awareness, especially, every player was doing so well, but their awareness, where they saw fights happening north of the bridge, third-party that engagement, get access to the best position of interest up north, and now able to just transition. And while doing that also, Kalaris, remaining as a 4-man team every single step of the way, it's just such a great display of what this team can actually do. And I've been supporting this team for now about a year, I'd say, since I saw them play back in PMNC. And it's not just Shifu, it's not just Keep. Limbo playing the beams, absolutely wonderful angles he was able to allow his team to secure. And of course, he had the side of Zadira, which early game had 6 elims. He was just popping off, allowing it to make that transition point a little bit smoother. So I was pumped with that game, and I want to see more of this.
This was so impressive, watching them control this bridge for as well as they were. I mean, a lot of this was going up against adversity. Every single team that they fought on that bridge was always in a better position than them to try and hold them off of Military Island, and they never gave up. They never surrendered. They just kept going. I think one thing that was really important is when they were transitioning from team to team to team, when they were battling them, they were constantly picking up all of their utility, using it all to the best of their ability as well. I was blown away by that game, but we do have to keep moving on here for this. Let's take a look at Major Pride and how things have gone for them on Sanhok specifically, because Sanhok has been a bit of a focal point of theirs. They were able to do very well on 2 particular ones, especially the one where they almost did 3,000 damage on a Sanhok, which is relatively unheard of, Max.
Yeah, I think that was the one where it was playing to the side of Painan, if I'm not mistaken, and they started sweeping northwest the entire time. And actually, this is what I really liked of Major Pride, not just on Sanhok, but on every one of their maps so far, is it seems like they're a lot more proactive than being reactive. They are willing to go for 2-2 splits, regroup really quickly depending on where the circle tends to shift, and sweeping edge really efficiently on that Miramar chicken dinner, and of course on this Sanhok chicken dinner. So I am appreciating a lot more this roster, and as I said, I really do prefer this 4-man team of Nomi, Effect, Naomi, and Black White. I think that this is the team that has the most potential to go really far, not only in this PMPL, but Championship and hopefully PMGC if they do end up qualifying. So this roster's working out. I hope they're going to stick to it, and they are a lot more willing to, as I said, regroup a lot quicker and take these positions of interest like this hilltop and just shut down the game. So I'm really stoked with Major Pride. I had some doubts in the first phase, but clearly they adjusted during that week break, and if they keep on going like this, MADBULLS, they're going to have a little bit more than just consistency. They're going to need to start popping off and taking down Major Pride to secure their points.
An insane push down on MUERTE here as they were caught off guard, or to a degree, on that Sanhok game. And I think for Major Pride, there could have been even more conversions on Sanhok. There were some games in the earlier portions of this tournament where they were split a little too much, a bit backstabbed by maybe a solo and things like that, and that kind of cost them a potential winning scenario. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll keep an eye on them. We only have one Sanhok today, unfortunately, for them, so we'll see how things go. But Max, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you to Monster for joining me here as well here for PMPL EU Fall. We are done for our pre-show. Let's get into it now. We are halfway through phase 2. Let's head over to Jackie and Blank for all the action.
See, it's unfair because Kalaris is hosting today. He doesn't get to have anyone say thank you to him. So, Blank, I just want to give a nice round of thank you to Kalaris.
A nice round of a thank you. Okay.
Yeah, nice round of thank you.
We got the full round table coming through. I like it. Fair play. He does require it sometimes. You know, even just a couple of days ago, as an analyst, now he's the host now. He's
all over the shop, isn't he?
He does it all. He does it all. He
can't be stopped.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Is it a multifunctional tool over on the desk? Not an actual tool. He's actually a really cool guy. But we are heading in towards Erangel, in which case a lot of these teams have to pull out everything from the toolbox here to make sure they can get themselves those points on board. Particularly though, there's one team that I want to focus in on, hone in on, have a bit of a better look at. It's Gladiators. Let's really take a quick look here, because I do think that if they don't start things off strong here on Erangel, I believe it's going to go downhill, Jackie.
Yeah, I kind of like the rolling of the cheese. It could go downhill fast, really.
Yeah. They're full of holes right now as well.
Actually, yeah. I mean, honestly, this analogy kind of gets better the more I'm thinking about it, because they are being chased by a lot of people as well. Oh, potent, you might say, right? Got a nice aftertaste to it. Pretty good skin on it sometimes.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's what you want, though. I think we want to go from smelly gladiators over towards potent gladiators, because I do think that they are an insane team, right? I think we can meme on them because they are so good. I think it would be unfair to do that to some other teams. And we know they can bounce back from this. So I think that for gladiators, particularly this game, it's just some of those rotations need to be quicker. I want to see more of that high-octane gameplay from week 1. I think that, you know, when I was chatting to him before, there was, I think we had a little bit of time before the interview went through where we were talking about, you know, how you adapt into the playstyle, and he was talking to me about how realistically what they're having difficulty with is some of these locations on the map that they're rotating over towards. They are not positions that they usually play. We know that they're an edge team in the past, so trying to reconform towards like a more center playstyle has been a little bit tough for them. There's positions on the map that they're not used to holding down. That's why we're seeing them lose a player on the rotate a couple of times. And it has been in the past where we said, that's fine, they're making a sacrifice, they're down to 3 players, they can play center. I think with the amount of teams we're now seeing in the lobby, particularly like Major Pride, MADBULLS, who are hitting center with 4 players, this is no longer an acceptable loss every single day where they do lose a player on the rotate. 4 players alive, Gladiators. We saw it yesterday on Miramar. They can get stuff done.
It feels like it's the world of difference for Gladiators as well, where the difference of them... Ooh, hello, mango. You don't normally have hot mango. I suppose that's a new type of dish there, but mango goes up in a puff of smoke. But yeah, it does feel like, you know, the longevity that team has when they're a solid 4 going into sort of the later circles, they can get so much done. When they're a trio, it just feels like the opportunities for them to play off one another and allow players like Matic and such to really just go wild. It's not there because you have to play a bit more timid. So... Bit of something to look at. Right now, though, what's happening on your screens, of course, is a bit of a battle to kick off this portion of the week, as we have Shockwave going head-to-head versus the Nameless. Relatively equal trades so far. They're all grouped up in top of one compound. 3 floors of pain on this one. And I hate most, probably going to be hating the situation that he's been left in here, going head-to-head versus Maxman's favorite, the big old Bizzard.
on the corner as well. He's actually getting some good work done, but Toena's will shut him down finally. We'll give him the old spray at the end there as well. I do feel a little bit sorry for Shockwave. I think they've been practically hot dropped over towards Severny pretty much every single map so far on Erangel. So they're trying to figure it out. This time, though, they get away with 4 players, 4 points in the bag as well. It's pretty decent. We're happy with that one. So Shockwave will now have a decent rotational path down towards that south side too. I think it's one of those positions where you don't want to get caught up in Severny for too long. I know, particularly for players and teams, it's one of those struggle positions where you want to get looted as quickly as possible. If anything, that fight starting as fast as it did is a big benefit for Shockwave. It's difficult to get out of that one with 4 players, so kudos to them. But if you get into a situation, Severny, where you've got teams across the road, you know, playing Grandma, playing the 2-story, you do just get this stalemate. Then you're never getting to the circle. Both teams are essentially just rocked up into a situation where you are just locked in. You're waiting for the parcel to arrive. It never comes, and you never get into the game. So it's actually pretty decent for Shockwave.
Oh, mate, it's the worst feeling. Like your life's got a padlock on it. You can't go. You don't know what you're meant to do. Waiting just feels awkward. The anticipation's there. When will the postman arrive? When will we get our chicken dinner? Life's greatest questions, really, Blank. You know, I suppose those are probably the number 2, number 1 top questions.
Exactly. When can I leave my house and when can I get that chicken dinner? It really is quite important. But for Shockwave, you know, they've lifted that ASBO, no longer got the lock over on the ankle here. Able to get across the line without that beeper going red. So they're good to go. They're good to go. To head down towards the circle. Looking at some other teams, though, again, we did want to have a little look at Gladiators this game. That's definitely the focus for me. But right now, they're not doing too much. You know, just hanging around over towards South George. They've not lost a player. This is something that they have dealt with before, with teams actually dropping over towards Matic in South Crates. So, yeah, a decent start for them. There is those 2 teams that we talk about all the time, Jack. It's Mage Pride and MADBULLS playing over towards the center side of the circle. And this is a bit more of a, what I would call, you know, a pretty puffed out chess move coming through from Major Pride, because they're playing towards Ruins, they're playing towards Sunken, and it's a big split from them. I don't think we've seen this for quite a while for them. This is back when they were really the new hot topic in spring. They were playing this split. They started losing players off the back of it, but this is when they were at their highest peak of success.
And hopefully that bodes well then, because we were seeing a little bit more confidence through them. You know, over the past 3 play days coming into this week, it felt like there were moments of greatness. They were getting a bit more consistent towards the end. MADBULLS definitely looking a bit more lively. So if the body language in terms of their positioning early in this one gives us any indication that hopefully that wasn't a bit of a blip, it is going to be a bit more consistent. You can round that out over the end of the week here. Come back in strong over the day off where you've had a bit of time to maybe assess the benchmarks a bit, go over the VODs, get topped up on all the info, then come in fresh for the next 3 days. There might be room for them to really run away with things. Talking of running away with things though, mate, I would assume this is where Major Pride should keep that momentum up, because they had a huge week, an absolute blinder. You know, we started it off with Titan having that incredible elimination game. That kind of stole the spotlight. But I think in terms of the actual consistency of it all, Major Pride, for me, really did blow everyone else out of the water going over the course of those 3 days, Blank. So you'd hope that that is something that's still going to be there. You know, you want them coming in at an 11, not starting at like a 7, and then having to work up to a 9. I want them already on 11.
Yeah, just cranking it up right at the beginning of the day, jumping in, feeling hot. You know, you've got just flames coming out of the back of your feet over towards the map itself.
There's a hot feet.
Hot feet, that's what you want. You want the hot feet on the ground, blazing a path towards the center of that circle for Major Pride. And, you know, you mentioned Titans with their massive game, right? The 25 Alima, which is felt like it couldn't be topped. It was topped by Dagestan yesterday on Erangel, which was also crazy. I mean, we've just had some ridiculously good games over the past week so far, and I only hope to see more. But for Titans, it did feel like they were hitting their ascendant stage after that match. However, quickly fell back down to earth again. Very much grounded by a lot of these other teams. Similar mistakes that we saw before. And it's frustrating. And I imagine it's frustrating for them as well, because you look back at that game and it's not a game, and I think the guys on the desk would even agree with me on this, it's not a game where you say to yourself, that's fluke, that's chance. A lot of the plays they made were just picture perfect, and it's confusing that we're not seeing really any resemblance of that in a lot of their other matches now. Because I thought that fast gameplay, that swift gameplay, was where they would start to thrive in this lobby, but they've just lost players again, and back to bad habits.
The more worrying thing is, right, is that contrast of we're talking about splits. When you start to see them splitting up and we see duos pulled out for Titan, oh, that's when it gets me a little bit worried. It gets me antsy, because normally it's either Old Boy or Robs that feel like they're either ahead of the pack or out on a bit of a solo mission. There's never any room for it. Whereas that game where they just absolutely went off in terms of eliminations, they were basically all operating as this kind of wolf pack squad. They would roam together. If Old Boy instigated a fight, they would all bundle on as a unit, and it just worked so much better. They were doing a great job of clearing out, taking compound control as an overall team, rather than looking fragmented. But that kind of did start to creep back in, and it worries me. It does worry me, because you want to see more from this Titan team, and at times when they play their best hand, Blank, it's really exciting to watch as well. I think that's the other fun bit, right? It's kind of showmanship PUBG Mobile. They're not your more standard games, so I guess the consistency there can be a little bit hard to repeat all the time. But hopefully they can find some sort of number, balance that out a bit, because you would like to see them actually keep that up, maintain that sort of play style, because it works better with their team. Here we go, though. Gladiators back up on the screens now as they're starting to make their rotation. I will say this as well. You know, we're talking about the fact that Gladiators need to do more as a roster. The one thing they don't need to do more is individually. Individually, they've all been looking really good. I think, you know, Meku has had his moments where, even as a solo over the course of the past 3 play days, was hugely influential. Matic as well, Blank. He's getting a bit too big for his britches, it seems. Like, the amount of plays Matic is starting to make, if he just has some support, someone to fall back on and pass the baton to, Gladiators have surely got all the right tools to really push themselves further in these lobbies.
I think that you're right massively, because Matic has just been so reliable recently, and not only reliable, just flicky and twitchy in terms of those plays that he's making. And it's weird because, you know, Max is coming back here, you know, he's always been on that Tixie supremacy grind, but I think at the moment we're getting the Matic monster coming through, and he has just been the guy that's just pushing the team to new heights. I like this though from them, because instead of just going for a direct center position that might have actually left them high and dry there, instead they opt to move through. They carefully, and I mean carefully, just try and rotate around Major Pride, see if that elevated spot is available. It was unlikely it would be, and I think that is what came into their heads there in that moment, that idea of, look, this is likely taken, so we're not going to get too aggressive on it. Meku's going to swing past quite far out. There might be shots taken at us, but we can get enough info off the back of that. Before, it might have just been a full send directly past, in which case Meku goes down. So instead of doing that, they send through, they scout Alamo, they scout out Dip as well, and this is going to be a decent way for them to start playing out their game. And, you know, they've actually headed further off towards that eastern side. So not dead center, but keep themselves out of the way of a lot of the teams coming in the west. So this is a smart move, and from this, they can actually make a wide wrap on the eastern side, feeling fairly comfortable that they shouldn't run into too many teams because they've already circumvented a lot of them. So this feels a bit more of a mix of gameplay between the two styles we've seen before, like on the edge and playing center. I'm interested by this.
It could be curious, mate. I like to see where it develops. We've got the swoop coming in now, though, as we just have Titan absolutely explode down to where they've spotted out KASIK team. KASIK team that were no stranger to picking up some big plays over the past 3 days of the competition as well. So this could be quite a tasty way to start things off here. 2 relatively strong squads going head to head. Awkward so far in terms of the spacing. You're playing with such little cover, so it's all up close and personal gameplay. The shotty's being pulled out with a nade supporting it. Old Boy is now dead boy as he's taken down in seconds. English kicking off that one quite nicely. They've got the pins pulled as well to respond, but it's Robs that blows away one man. Hard commits as well to take that one out. Here's the peek from the top. Trades back, and this is not looking good for Titan. You're losing quite a lot, and there's room for a third party here as well now, pushing down the hill. So Trofka realizing situations developing, Blank, this could get a bit rough quite quickly.
Yeah, a lot of teams want a piece of the pie here on this side of the map towards the western edge. Gladiators fling themselves in. MUERTE is a little bit hesitant to get involved with this engagement. Only Fury and Malloy's here. Corker and Milky Way still holding it down on the eastern edge. And again, this is decent from Gladiators, and I was about to say usually they'll just send one guy in, and despite the fight absolutely being in the throes of it, they do lose members. And I think they were a bit slow to get pushed onto this one. Kitsune down, will have to be res back up again, and Meku losing his vehicle most likely to Havlik. Not ideal right now, so they should be down to 3 players looking to maintain control of a compound that Dagestan is very close to picking up themselves.
I like the way this is starting. This could be an interesting development here over the third circle already. Gladiators taking pot shots back as they've got prime line of sights onto this one. And this could wipe off a few fairly aggressive competitors that normally do go quite far on Erangel early. Over the course of this fight, it's a bit of a slow one. We've got the smoke wall coming up here as well, the smoke snake even. That'll completely block off the vision here, giving a bit of spacing for MADBULLS to back further off. So no Mercy Warriors trying to play around this one to at least peek back in as well. Utility in the pockets, but really shouldn't help them out too much. MADBULLS have been able to get back towards the tree line, but they've just got to find a way out. That's the bigger piece of the puzzle. At least there's a vehicle for the quick escape. Naomi's round towards the wayside though. So actually, Major Pride could catch contact at the rotation from MADBULLS, and that would kind of leave them sandwiched between 2 squads here.
Not ideal. I think that Major Pride's got a good beat on this one. Could even head further downwards. Naomi just playing up and close and personal to try to get a bit more information on side. MADBULLS will try and fling themselves between. It is interesting. Major Pride currently fielding D now. I know that Maxman would rather we saw a different roster there. Felt like they had figured things out of which players they wanted to field on which day. So it is interesting that Dino's back into the mix. They're just trying to get everyone a little bit of playtime, but I don't think that you really want to do that, especially when you're right on the edge, Jackie, now, of qualifying through PMGC points alone, after MADBULLS essentially just robbed it from you. You know, I would just stick with a roster that's working and stay on that one. In the meantime, Circle heads further down towards the south side between the snake that runs through farm in terms of that road. Interesting area to finish in. It's a little bit difficult to play around with, and there's a lot of this elevated ground over towards the western side, which is going to be useful to quite a few teams. I think the difficulty for Gladiators holding off this compound as 3 players is quite hard, because the sight lines looking out towards that top side aren't ideal for stopping crashes coming towards you. You sort of have to be on the outside of the compound to receive players, but then again, by doing that, you open yourself up to sight lines up the hill. So slightly difficult spot to play in for them. I think Dagestan has a little bit more room to play around with, because they've been fairly quiet, just gathering that intel.
Bit of early game reconnaissance, and then make the right moves where it matters most. Talking of moving, you've got the rotations that are coming out now as well. Major Pride taking the odd stab here and there where they found opportunities presented to them. Now looking to readjust. See, that's why you don't want Dino in. He gets stuck on the shrubbery blank.
Yeah, come on, man. That is
a nightmare.
Unacceptable behavior. Look, we're seeing exactly why. You know, Max didn't want him in the roster.
That's what it is. That was where the analysis come from. He's seen those shrubs. He's seen the way he navigates them.
Man can't get us to tire over a raspberry bush. It's unacceptable behavior. We don't like it. We don't like it. But it's pro, though.
Saplings.
We do like these guys. We absolutely do like these guys. And just like the tapper on a tree, Wade's going to tap over towards Sneaks. Won't be receiving any sap in the process, but certainly picks himself a knock.
Yeah, sapped down in the end, as that one will connect. And it was interesting as well, right? Because VP, the fact we haven't seen them, they've been lurking in the shadows over the course of this one. That bodes well for me. It means they're normally revving up. They're cranking back that fist and getting ready to deliver the haymaker. And now they're starting to get themselves in the elimination feed quite thick and fast. Ooh, beating down onto PERMITTA. Oh, this isn't good though. Gladiators, relatively aggressive. I mean, Matic all the way out on his lonesome, luckily given the moment of opportunity to back off towards the compound, had one smoke blocking the bullets that could have been very dangerous. So he gets out of dodge on that one. That's what remains of Titan. Well, I suppose just at this point, they've already had the first few removed from the equation, as you've only got 2 of them left alive. And Havlik, that's if he can survive this test.
Not going to be an easy test to survive either, but I think you're looking over towards the team. You know, the fact that he's actually been able to get him back in the building, potentially over that res, and you can see why Gladiators actually are trying to remove this position for them, because it has high ground overlook down towards Gladiators. Dagestan would have to kind of expose themselves. They want to take shots at Gladiators as they make their rotate, but Titans immediately see them from that Wizard Tower as Gladiators want to move. And as 3 players, you don't really have that big opportunity to just leave a backstop behind and go for those shots. I think we have to talk about MUERTE a little bit because they're dead center at the moment, a really good position, which means I have to now predict them. And they did that with a 2-2 split over towards the east and the west, which meant that like in between them, they had almost this rectangle, this oblong that they'd brought out of control between this compound, so they could kind of get a good destination on either side of the circle. So I really do like that from MUERTE, and that is just the classic MUERTE split coming into action here.
It's also when you see MUERTE roaming, looking aggressive, Furious starting to, you know, get stuck into fights that he probably doesn't even belong in, that's when it bodes well. We'll come back to that thought process later though, because right now things are kicking off. Compound control being scrapped for thick and fast as Effect goes in and blows Woodson away, cuts his way through him like a hatchet and shuts down a lot of the defense that Unicorns have had onto this one. So they've got to bail out of the better angles and just try and play off the map geometry, dash and smokes to buy a bit of time as well, as Major Pride have basically rocked up and exchanged hands quite quickly on control of the contract there. They're the landlord now.
It's a difficult compound to hold. And I mean, with the guys at Unicorns Love only having 2 players, like, this is going to be rough. You've got Bonnie currently playing up top side in the little shack. They don't really have to clear him. He's essentially just playing here, and he's going to be causing a problem, but never really too big of a threat here for Major Pride in future. Realistically, he's sort of like a bumper between them and No Mercy Warriors, who are ahead of them. It's a real interesting compound that can contain a fair few players, but I would say Major Pride right now do have the superior location, as it does look down towards No Mercy Warriors, and they've opted not to go for a split on this one, just backed it up.
Major Pride on the move again. Now Bonnie, one moment of opportunity he could have is, depending on the rotations that come out from Major Pride, if they push slightly too far ahead, could maybe sideswipe them. We'll check back in on that later, because right now we've got this triple threat fight that could be occurring up towards the hillside. VULGAR boys, they knew the location of VP for quite some time, but really getting into the engagement is the awkward part. You're peeking over the top of the hillside here. Elementrix goes for a quite wild maneuver, draws the information, draws the crosshairs. Now everyone's following suit on the rotation, feeling confident because he was able to achieve this mission. Meanwhile, they're getting picked to pieces. VP getting farmed in seconds now, Blank. Gladiators suffering from the same fate as well, as it seems like Major Pride are just unloading onto them.
Yeah, it's so difficult to get in on that western side now, and I think that Major Pride just had a location to hit up early on. It's given them some pretty decent rotational paths into that late game. Gladiators coming in from South George. It's difficult for them. Zadira finds Foops, man. That is the lad that you want alive here. Luckily, Pylaus actually is able to pick himself up another shot over towards Dagestan, and they had a great chance coming into this one. Obviously, they're playing downhill, but I would feel like Dagestan, after yesterday, should be able to take care of VULGAR. Just not to be, though. With Gladiators now out as well, only 3 eliminations. Not ideal, but I think I appreciate the way they played this map out. It's a little bit more cautious. That needs to continue going to the future. Nake tries to get himself a cheeky pick off there, but 2 players for Dagestan in a world of hurt coming up soon.
Yeah, you're going to be feeling the pain in this one. No easy fights from this point forward, but the nades might be able to help you out. Keith delivers a tasty 3-pointer straight on top of them. And now it's so much harder to survive, but the problem is they forgot about the second player. They're both playing behind the same angle towards the rock side, so he's able to peek with the timing as they push past. Foopsman will play medic and try and get his teammates back on his feet. Meanwhile, Major Pride, they're basically the warlords on this one, getting stuck into another compound crush again as they run their way through everything No Mercy Warriors are throwing at them. They've completely fragmented them, playing towards the backside. Dino's even isolated a fight onto Unicorns of Love, realizing where they are. Oh, Blank. Major Pride, even with an adjustment to the roster, looking like they did yesterday all over again.
Yeah, I mean, Naomi, this guy doesn't throw grenades. He just shoots missiles. That was one hell of a nade over the top. An effect absolutely will finish it up there. The big-time fragger over on the team. Again, Naomi as well as Effect, the longest-standing players here over on Major Pride. The original duo. But it's going to be difficult to deal with MUERTE. This high ground that they have down towards this bottom side, yes, it's not as high as up where No Mercy Warriors, but you don't want to be up there anyway. But it makes it so difficult to assault their compound. If anyone can do it, it is Major Pride. Up to 9 eliminations already. That momentum is still here.
It's wild. They're like a helium balloon. They're just rising constantly. They've broken free from the weight. They're able to just go off into the stratosphere, man. Every peak they take is working perfectly. Like this whole game, you've just seen fragments of Major Pride popping up in the Elim feed, even when there's other fights going on. And these are against, you know, some of the bigger squads in the actual lobby as well. I think that's the more influential part, is they're not doing it against some of our lower tier squads to sort of get the blood pumping. They've gone into this one, absolutely smashed their way through the mid game on Erangel and set themselves up perfectly. Yes, they've got Nomi knocked at this point, so if they reset that situation, get themselves back as a 4, the good times might keep on rolling. The grand scheme of things, though, as the chips lie, you're looking at 4 squads. VULGAR with just 1 man remaining. KONINA Power with 3 of the 4 available. MUERTE and Major Pride with both 4 alive. And those are the number 2, number 1 squads for me. You're looking at MUERTE and Major Pride coming into this. I think this is a clash between them, ideally, to see who takes a stab at the chicken dinner at the start of today's playday.
I think for MUERTE as well, this is almost like a bit of a revenge cage match coming through for them. After that Sanhok, where they realistically should have won from the center of the map inside of Painan, they should have won that game. Major Pride's able to just rush their way down the hillside, get themselves into a decent position, which was sort of unacceptable, and take the game away from them. So now MUERTE in the exact same spot. They're in the center of the circle. This would be catastrophic if Major Pride's able to jump down onto him again. That will really knock the confidence if you just feel like, how can you beat such a team?
It's a big question. And it's an answer that might be hard to come by. They've got good positioning at the minute. They're playing it smart, taking their time. Lots of nades in the back pockets for KONINA Power at least, so they just continuously dash out these smokes, trying to shroud themselves and block off the line of sight, jump back in the vehicle and look to go for the rotation. They want to link up with their teammate. Right now they're fragmented into a duo and a solo. They're able to remedy that part of the problem. Grab a 3rd vehicle as well for off-haze, so a little bit more mobility now. So KONINA Power on the move. What remains of VULGAR, just the solo, up ahead of them as well. Ooh, this isn't ideal. Taking bullets down range as they've gone straight into the crosshairs of Malloy, the madman, peeking through the window and hitting shots.
I think it's difficult though, and I think that the fact that MUERTE is the first to face here isn't ideal. The major factor that's going to change the way this game goes is just purely that game of attrition. The difference maker for Major Pride is currently they have so much utility, they have so much meds, so much ammo, just purely from the back of all these fights they've taken. Now Nomi sends wide. This is classic Nomi to a T. The off angle, either it wins you the game or it loses you the game. Furia has to go massive with this nade.
It's an exchange of nades from either side. Corker takes a heavy hit from the first. Naomi ramping up to dash in a Molotov as well, wants to burn them out of their preferred positions. An airburst outside the window for the one going towards Malloy. So they're keeping the pressure on, but they haven't quite been able to commit. But that's the first heavy hit.
What is
we
that?
see the takedown. Follow up as well from Naomi. Breaks in half, Milky Way. Naomi, last ditch attempt to get out one more nade as well. Uh-oh, bit of team damage coming through as Corker. He's set himself ablaze with a Molotov and it's getting rough. Major Pride, it looked very clean, but now they've got to clean this one up at the finish.
Furia, so low HP, no meds either. Will get taken down by Effect as he runs into the building. 12 eliminations. KONINA Power looking to steal this one off of Major Pride, currently at 3 players so far. On an absolute tear of a game, just ripping through their opponents, and MUERTE had nothing left in the tank.
Effect up on the roof.
What? How did he get up here so fast?
How is he
teleported?
so much damage from the nade as well, though? Palucci? That's a hell of a lob off Hayes' arm with the pin pulled below him as well. Okay, if we thought this was going to have a relatively simple finish to it with Major Pride off the back of the beautiful take of the compound, no, this one's still going, Glang, because even the solo of Vulgar Boys takes a stab in the dark to deal a bit of damage and shut down KONINA power, but it falls back in favor of Major Pride. They had a good grip on the game from start to finish. A great display of their skill as a 4 there, Blank. That's a huge chicken dinner.
I mean, what is going on here? I mean, Maxman also, fair play to him, props to him, comes back over towards the desk, instantly predicts Major Pride, gets the prediction right too. I mean, it's just one of those things where it really shouldn't happen. Like, that play shouldn't happen ideally for MUERTE. The fact they just had no utility, no meds, no ammo either made things really difficult. And they knew where they wanted to place those nades. The teamwork from Major Pride is looking phenomenal so far. Nomi took that off angle. I think it didn't go too badly, and he was able to get information, which is the main thing when you're trying to place nades into a building that has so many rooms.
No, it was really nice. They flushed them out into the angles they wanted to be in. The lineups were clean. They knew exactly what they were doing going into that one, and it was pretty damn nice. That's the way we kick off the first matchup of the day. Then let's get back to the desk, dissect it, and set ourselves up for the glorious day ahead.
A big round of thank yous to Major Pride here, looking amazing. We already said the fight back was on, but never mind, they just decide to pop off once again here. Major Pride looking insane. Joining me, Max, to talk about this one. Max, that was picture perfect for them to make the transitions through those compounds from the south and eventually take out MUERTE. Amazing.
Yeah, we were looking at these circles, and of course, MUERTE had the central position, had the 4 players still there. It's looking really strong, but I saw Major Pride going for the wide rotate away from Potato Hill, and I saw what I think is a really big mistake in this kind of position is Unicorns of Love maintaining their split for as long as they did. It makes them so vulnerable to a push like Major Pride, and as you know, Major Pride, especially in the second phase, Kalaris, I'd say, are a lot more opportunistic. When they see an opportunity to go for a push in a strong position, they are going to full send it, and they did not slow down in their approach. 23 points to kick off the day, and they had, what, 3 chicken dinners back to back to back at the end in the first half of this phase. Like, they're on absolute fire. I'm loving this. And Dino was playing and actually, had a decent impact. So good to see from Dino.
No, 100%. When Circle 5 pops, that's the moment where Unicorns of Love should get together, either on the south of the compounds or the north of the compounds, and then try and hold off whatever threats may come their way. That really gave Major Pride a perfect way into this circle, as they were able to divide and conquer so well. 9th through 16th, not getting too many points on the board here, but as we say, Unicorns of Love should maybe have had some more points for themselves and maybe even done some decent hold-offs. Let's take a look here, though. MUERTE going up against Major Pride. MUERTE technically had an amazing position to work with, but as Blank was saying during the cast here, Max, maybe they ran out of resources to be able to actually make this happen. And also, Major Pride's smoke off of that compound to then push up against it was fantastic.
I think MUERTE were in that exact compound since phase 3? 2 or 3? Something like really early on. So they were just taking shots at everyone around farm. And of course, when you're out of resources, there's not much you can really do. They did have, luckily enough, a few nades to slow down the approach of Major Pride. But Major Pride, having all their utility they picked up from Unicorns of Love, from No Mercy Warriors, and able to block out, most importantly, vision from those top buildings, made that approach so much easier. And Effect, we talked about it at the end of that game, right, Kalaris? The moment Effect got to the roof, we're like, yeah, it's game over. You can't escape his gaze. It's done.
No, definitely. Look at that as well. Nomi, 1,100 damage coming in. Him going for an off angle against MUERTE there. I get what he's trying to do, actually. I completely understand why he does that kind of big, wide wrap west for all of this. Does eventually get knocked and eliminated, but it doesn't really matter because he's kind of opening up the threats against MUERTE, as MUERTE has to deal with a lot of what's going his way. But let's take a look at the highlights to start things off. Shockwave up in the north actually manages to get a 4v0 basically.
Yeah, I kept saying about Shockwave that the main issue is that they take these early game fights. If it's a hot drop or because of like phase 1, phase 2 rotation, they do tend to lose players. Good to see them, go and get himself 4 limbs without losing a single player. But this circle, there's not a lot of compounds, and it makes it very easy if your team that drops far away to get in a position of interest. So I can't really fault them too much for that. No, we had this fight happening between KASIK team and Titan, and props to Inga. She really held down that Harry Potter tower so efficiently versus Titan, but then all the players started to lose, all the teams started to lose players, and you're being fed downhill into that farm flat terrain. All the teams north really tried to make the most out of it, but the moment you're getting pushed over that lip of the hill against MUERTE in that compound, KONINA Power just sweeping the eastern side, there's not much you could really do at that point, so they were just trying to get the most out of a bad circle for them.
Here comes the Major Pride breakdown of everything that's going on into these compounds, and then moving forwards. We actually didn't get to see in these highlights the exact important moments of them pushing on the MUERTE compound. We were talking about it, right? Smoking off the low ground windows, easy peasy. You just throw those onto the ground in front of them. There's no problem whatsoever. You can even use some mollies to really push your opponents away from those windows. The top windows, you have to get them through into the windows when you're making that push move forwards, right? So there's a little bit of extra execution required here for Major Pride, but they did it flawlessly.
Yeah, almost 3k damage on this one. And I feel like, especially, you talked about Nomi's off angle. He was the one that really enabled Major Pride's players to take risks to get those smokes into the windows. If you don't have Nomi there, I think it's a lot easier for MUERTE to just take those shots and stop those smokes from getting remotely close to the windows in the first place. So it just worked out so well. And this is one thing about Major Pride I really enjoy. It seems like since the spring season, their team synergy is just on point now. They communicate so well. That breach on Unicorns of Love, the execution was amazing, and I want to see more of this Major Pride. And this is the Major Pride. If they go in PMGC, I'll be like, yeah, I think there's a chance that they can pop off there.
Yeah, let's take a look at the overalls then, because I think that's 5 wins in 13 rounds. Yes, it is. Major Pride up at the top. Do you remember that lead that MADBULLS had in Phase 1? Well, it looks like Major Pride is coming here to say, we are going to do that too. So far, so good. Almost 30 points lead against someone like MADBULLS is crazy, Max.
Yeah, I feel like Major Pride lost their 100-point lead for PMGC points on purpose just to make it interesting for us and the viewers at home. It's just so much more interesting of a storyline. But yeah, MADBULLS are still really consistent. Of course, I believe MADBULLS were in the group. They were not... no, they were playing okay. No, my bad. Okay. Sorry, MADBULLS.
13 games.
Sorry, Matt. Yeah, not a good game for MADBULLS. But yeah, Major Pride, 5 chicken dinners at this point of the tournament in Phase 2 is just ludicrous. And I want to see that continue, though. I'm still looking at Titan. And it was still a little bit of a messy fight, I would say, they took versus Gladiators and the likes of them in a Harry Potter Tower. So I want to see them really start popping off, because outside of day 1 of this phase, it's been a bit silent for me.
I mean, Titan had probably one of the worst days they've ever had when it came to the last day that we were watching before you came back, Max, right? They had a 12th, 15th, 16th, 16th in their 4 games that they played that day, and they're still in 3rd place. It does make you wonder if they were able to kind of keep up that day 1 momentum, how high they would be in terms of those point gains here against the rest. But 9th through 16th, as you can see, SPG, Shockwave not having the best of times here. No reason I pointed those 2 out in particular, Max.
Yeah, thank you. just the 2 French squads, appreciate it. But yeah, if they can play himself a Livic at the end, I'll be happy. No, that's going to be the objective for them, to make in top 12. But at the bottom, yeah, Unicorns of Love. I feel like we've jumped on this team so much, but like this was a game where they could have got so many potential points, but they just not able to really gatekeep the Southwest.
Yeah, no, definitely. Here, as we have ourselves the 1,640 points average coming out here from MADBULLS up towards the top as we move on to Miramar. It's quite impressive, to say the least here, Max. But TUNA up here is not a team that I would have expected, actually.
Yeah, I feel like they had a really strong performance on this map at one point. They were playing a nice... yeah, it was a Northern Circle, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I mean, TUNA is a team that, again, we talked about this team and the players they have. There is definitely potential, similar to a Dark Project, etc. But they just need to find that consistency going. But when you look at the top teams, and Major Pride with 5 chicken dinners is not much you can really do. So it's just very top heavy here.
No, definitely. Right, well, coming into Miramar, of course, my eyes still navigate towards those big teams here to try and rack up those big points. But let's move on to the big desert here, as we have got Jackie and Blank to take us to big Miramar.
Oh, we're in the big desert and we're searching for the new sound. Blank, you excited for this one, mate?
I absolutely am, mate. We need to get this on a VCR tape too, you know, so I can watch it back old school retro style. That's what I need at this point in time. I'm very excited for Miramar, though. I think we've had some of our best maps and matches here over on Miramar itself. We do have some teams not joining us. We don't have Titans in, VIRTUS.PRO not playing, KONINA as well as the Nameless are out. I think the two big ones to look at there are probably VIRTUS.PRO and Titan Gaming, although KONINA Power have started to put up some points now. You know, 10th place. It's respectable. It's a respectable position to be in. On the other hand of things, though, we look where Major Pride currently are. 152 points. It is absolutely mad. You look at 4th place, 100 points. They're 52 points behind at this point in time. So really, really well done to Major Pride. They're winning games that really do require brute force and very good understanding of the game, how to pull it off. Yeah, they're playing out their minds at the moment. It's nice to see Major Pride back on top because I do think they were slightly knocked down last season in spring off the back of the finals, because in the finals, Jackie, last game, it should have been a Major Pride win. Gladiators swooped by, able to take their position up on Everest and win the game out by a few points. So I think Major Pride probably felt the pain from that one. But if anything, it sort of lit a fire underneath them coming into the fall split, because they know they can hit these big wins.
And you've got to just roll with that, right?
Wow.
You know, stay in your stride. Oh, mate, that's probably one of the reasons behind why these wins are starting to come in thick and fast. The team just outputting such a sheer level of lethality when it comes to damage. These are some big games. Basically, all of our stats here have had highlights on at least 1 or 2 different players from Major Pride, and rightly so. You know, already it's only the one map played out today, with Erangel being our first battleground already concluded, but that gave us enough of a benchmark over the course of that game to see that Major Pride, they're not coming into the second half of the week sluggish, slow, not looking like the team with that killer instinct that we saw over the first 3 days. It seems like, if anything, Blank, they've taken that pace, they're rolling with it, but they're still trying to potentially adapt and try and see where this roster really is going in terms of the future, right? Because the optics here, you're still fielding Dino on times, so what's the idea behind that is another question. I think it's really interesting that they're performing so well while still potentially changing so much behind the scenes as well. So really interesting. Does bode well for Major Pride's future.
It really does. I think a lot of times you'll see like a player being moved in and out, and sometimes it doesn't work all that well for a team when they don't have the right roster on board. Luckily for you guys, we've got the right roster over on the social media team, bringing you all the content, which has been approved, obviously, by the Maxman himself, who's on the desk with us today. Putting out all the memes. You can go follow us over on Esports, PUBGM EU over on Instagram, as well as YouTube for your daily dose of PUBG Mobile action.
Stay on top of all the latest and greatest. You know, you can boast to your mates. You can be like, did you know that I know Max Man? Doesn't matter if you do. You can, yeah, we're giving you the right to say that now. You're allowed to.
Yeah.
That's just how that works.
Did you know I went to Poland with Maxman last week? I was there.
We'll Photoshop a picture together for you. We'll cover all the stories, don't worry. I tell you who has been globetrotting a bit though, mate. MUERTE, you know, getting sort of more back into the groove of things at least. Kind of feels like they were robbed slightly. You know, they're maybe a little bit frustrated about what went down on the opening game today, because that looked really clean from them. It felt like a MUERTE that didn't have to fight tooth and nail to drag themselves into a late game finish either. It looked a lot more easy for them to sort of coast around, taking opportunistic fights when possible, but playing some smart PUBG, and I like that. I think MUERTE are another squad that, again, you know, we could sit here and kind of wax lyrical for like an hour about them, because they have a lot of talent, and also they give us so many interesting things to dissect. They're one of those teams that are super cool to watch. So another side that potentially here looks to have a blinder of a day could be MUERTE, and I'd be happy with that. I'd be glad to watch them start to get themselves back up the standings.
Yeah, they've still got a lot of improvement to be done. It's quite interesting looking at the team in terms of just potential. Like I said, we could just talk about them for absolutely ages, but potential is there on their side. And I would say, yeah, I somewhat agree with you that they probably would be quite frustrated about that last game, having that chicken dinner robbed away from them. But you could also look at it from the other side of things and say that, you know, they probably are also quite pleased with how that played out. In terms of their rotations, in terms of how they took that compound, it was fairly clean. And you do have to be quite happy with those situations sometimes. Obviously, they didn't get a podium finish. I think that's probably the thing that would be the real kicker for them, right? Because I think they expected a lot of other teams to go down before them, so they maybe got a second place. But I do think that, you know, it's a case where they could have held on to ammo. They could have held on to utility, they could have held on to meds, but they did their absolute darndest to just have a look out those windows, take some casualties where possible, keep teams off their backs and just claim that territory. And that's what led them into getting as far as they did. You look at it from a different angle and say that maybe they just hold on to all their utility, hold on to everything, wait for that major pride push. They could have gone down a lot earlier, right? Instead of getting all those points beforehand, instead of getting 9 eliminations, and then getting a 4th place, would have felt absolutely miserable.
Yeah, that probably would have been the insult on top of the insult to injury. So I avoided that timeline, at least.
Double tap.
Yeah, not what you want. Dark Project, though, on screens here. Dark Project, I suppose, you know, first half of the week, I think we saw the odd twist and turn from them that was a bit more surprising, at least, but nothing too far out of the ordinary. You know, at times a few of their takes of compounds looked pretty clean. They had some great gun skill on display, but just not enough to really project themselves massively over the course of some of these games. It feels like they just go down a little bit early, you know, potentially overzealous in some of the rotations we were seeing from them over the first 3 days of competition. So, Dark Project, we'll check in on them. We'll have a look. We'll keep you updated. The occasional microscope will be pulled out. Tell you who I did like, though, from last, well, I say last week. It was only a few days ago. SBG. Like, SBG were actually starting to come out of their shell an awful lot more, Blank. And it was nice. It felt like Snowix was willing to take some fights. Narvalo looked a bit more aggressive. It was one of those times where, you know, first day we were saying, oh, we haven't really said SBG much today. And then the next 2 days, they were starting to bubble up a little bit more, a little bit more. So I like that. I'm glad we're starting to get more SBG screen time, mate, because I do think there is a ton of talent on that roster. Again, it's just one of those where it feels like sometimes they're kind of overshadowed.
Yeah, it's really difficult with the amount of good teams in this lobby now. And I think we certainly still have to have, you know, the teams that sit at the very bottom end. I mean, you're talking about Dark Project, currently 24 points in 20th place. But, you know, if we looked at them, realistic, a lot of the games, it doesn't feel horrible. Like, it doesn't feel they're just running into teams, getting mowed down, and then it's GG. It does feel like they're attempting to get some rotations in, attempting to take some of those shots. Similar could be said for SBG. It's just very difficult teams to try and assault over the top of. You know, you've kind of completely rebuilt the roster here with Snowix, Victor and Narvalo really being the only 2 players that have a lot of experience playing one another. And even then, Victor's been taking a fair few breaks recently, with Narvalo basically playing with a completely different squad. So I think that it's difficult for SBG. And I think this is a great start for maybe next year to get experience on side. And I'd hope that SBG would remain together because they are a decent team and they do have greatness within them. It just needs to be revealed.
It's like a geode hidden inside a rock. You know, you got to smash that bad boy open, find the gemstones, and you're like, ooh, this was worth waiting for. So yeah, hopefully so, mate. I agree with you. You know, it's got legs on it. The roster looks good. Just needs a bit more time. Give it a little bit longer, and then hopefully they'll get more consistency. So Dark Project, we touched on them. They're now here. Yeah. They've been spelunking in reverse, so climbing their way all the way to the top of the hill. And you're basically up against just Tipsy. Yeah, you know, the reverse spelunk, mate.
Yeah, it's the reverse fall. You up the hill. It's great. It's great. For them.
I've tripped upwards.
You tripped upwards. Brilliant. I actually done that on the stairs. It's not a pleasant experience. Dark Project, though, I think is a good team to talk about in terms of team composition, though. Specifically because it's a great example of why certain things don't work. Right now, you've got Ivaneska as well as Aces on the same team now. Aces back in the day, great off-angle player. What is Ivaneska? another off-angle player. And Kespo also doesn't really seem to bring much to the team in terms of playing up front, up forward. Feels like he's playing a bit more backstop. So you have a team that just doesn't really excel at initiating engagements, doesn't really excel at controlling ground up front, because Aces and Ivaneska just constantly want to be pulling the squad apart and playing on two different ends of things. So I do think this, if people wanted to create teams or looking into how do we need to get ourselves in terms of composition, even at home, your mates, you're signing roles, you know, you're taking it try-hard, trying to get Conqueror. You have to look at this thing, because this is the prime example of why 2 off-anglers and a couple of backstops just doesn't work.
Overlap potentially being a bit of a problem. Having a look here. Dagestan and MADBULLS. Listen to me. Oh, mate. I mean, they're on the move. You got MADBULLS just trying to get themselves out of trouble. Meanwhile, trouble has kicked off here. NEXUS on screens for what feels like the first time today. Getting a little bit of screen time as they're able to put some bullets down range. And Pepper Alpha. Oh man, it felt like they were kind of cursed in some really important moments over the first 3 play days of this week. So I'm hoping they've been able to shake that off a bit. Because again, another team that's got a lot of talent just feels like they've been somewhat unlucky. Exshipa here, he's just holding with the DBS. So if you come swinging close quarters, he's going to be content with that fight. Wants to play the angle, wait for you to peek in and try and hit those 1 pumps to shut you down. Doran teases it. He actually instigates the fight. I like that. The confidence from Exshipa to charge on in, but can he clean up? Needs to double down on this one. Opts to get a better angle as he pushes upstairs. He's looking for an opportunity to heal, realizes he's so exposed in a spot like this, but goes for it anyway. Timing's tight and the Molotov will deny it.
Yeah, that's such a nice molly coming through from Kapahala. He's been kind of on a streak recently. They will get Doran back up on his feet. Again, kind of a difficult play to make there. And I think that Kapahala comes in really clutch though, because as soon as you hear the pin there come through from Octavian, and you know there's another player down, unlikely is anyone close by. If I'm Exshipa, I'm just pushing that. I'm just pushing that 100%. I know that he's got the nade out. You know, I can catch him surprised in the moment. So great news that Kapahala is able to thread that Molotov through the window. And NEXUS continue going. Again, a team that spends the majority of their time out in the blue. Very uncomfortable position to play. I think that the majority of NEXUS's play days are uncomfortable, to be quite frank. I'd rather see them, you know, get the nice plush couch out. I want to see this team lounging. So some quicker rotates maybe, you know, maybe take some of these wider rotates into the circle. We look back to PMWI, a team that didn't necessarily look very good at all, which was Gangsters, finding success off the back of huge, massive wide rotates, just circumventing that playing path. Dagestan on our screens, also in the blue. They're rotating down on this south side. And really, we have to talk about the circle now. And I'm glad that we do get up on the right side of our screen. We see this one a lot, Jackie. High ground over towards that western side. A nice, a little bit of a position to play towards the center here. KASIK is up on very big elevation. And I'd love to see the circle actually end there. It's a super curious finish, in which case you kind of isolate the west and the east side, so teams can play on either edge. And it does get a bit nerve-wracking for the team on top.
A little bit nervous, you know? The chattering in the teeth, the wobbly legs, all classic signs of nerves, mate. Ooh, okay. This is making me a little bit uncomfortable, though. Just looking at the spacing we've got from MADBULLS and Major Pride. It's always fun. When it feels that you're going to get a bout between these two squads, there's a bit of a grudge match kind of feeling that goes into it. The battle of the animal kingdom, almost. So let's see here. Will it be the Lions or the Balls that stand tall? Already, we can see Alpha taking some hits as Dark Project are kicking off a scrap versus them. High ground is in favor of MADBULLS. Fleek's here. He's been pretty damn gross recently in terms of some of the shots he's been hitting as well. So if there is any peaks from Major Pride, they have to do so swiftly. Try and keep their noses clean. If you're exposed for too long, they're going to open up and start taking pot shots. You've got the fishes as well in TUNA swimming their way around to what remains of Dark Project to try and put the grippers on them a bit.
Did you know TUNA are like absolutely massive and just pretty deadly fish out in the waters?
They are very big, Blank.
I thought they were quite small creatures, but I was wrong.
Yeah. They're huge. Like, tuna are legit just massive. Do you know there's 15 different types of tuna in the world?
I didn't know that. Absolutely not. I might need to look it up now. It's important.
Yeah.
Right now, we've got quite a deadly TUNA inside the lobby as too. So that's what I want to see here. I want to see TUNA get themselves a nice game. I think their only win we've seen is actually on Miramar. So this is a chance for them. Dark Project Casper up on the high ground at the moment, as was his northern edge. It's quite difficult for a lot of teams in this circle particularly because there's so many good positions that you want to lock down, but you're not sure if it's going to end there or not. For Gladiators, they've been around this area for quite a while. They drop up towards La Cobradia, you know, taking that split down towards the south side where currently MUERTE is playing. They've opted to hit towards that edge side again. So definitely a change in tactic coming through from Gladiators, trying to play more of their old play style. I don't know whether this is a blessing or a curse because I did think that their new play style was looking really cool. You know, it was very fast paced, but I think sometimes you have to default back into something that feels natural to you just to get some points on board. I think they don't want to fall too far behind, especially in an important week like this where we just have so many play days in a row. They don't want to let teams get ahead of them.
Getting ahead, though, is what Kapahala is all about. Needs to get out of the blue as he was so low on HP and didn't want to dilly-dally, wasting utility to heal up. So he goes breezing on through, luckily draws the crosshairs and gets by. We can tune in on this fight as well, as obviously MADBULLS and Major Pride have basically been stalking one another and playing a game of chicken in terms of their rotations. They both found safe haven with the compounds that were available, but do they know about KASIK team? Up on the hill, oh, he's been a bit of a demon over the play days, Blank, but on this one, he fluffs his lines. The script's gone out the window as he's on his legs already.
Zerich is just unbelievably good. And I love how you just see MADBULLS, they're getting shots taken at them. You instantly see two players just look up the hill. He's gone. Trofka's done. He's not a bad player, right? But it's NEXUS versus Shockwave, and that's it. It's done. Again, NEXUS barely makes their way into the circle, doesn't even cross the line before they are taken out. And Shockwave, they take 3 knocks here, but they will at least successfully keep themselves alive for the time being. But SBG, they've heard this. This could be an easy cleanup.
They're going all in on it. You've got 2 fights occurring across the battlefield as Dark Project, the Scrapping, and SBG have roamed on in to clean up on the final man that was standing for Shockwave. Meanwhile, Alpha have evaporated as they go up in a puff of smoke. And this is getting quite intense now. MUERTE have even found an opportunity to punish back onto Dark Project. As you can see the Elim feed filling up with the MUERTE players. They've got good angles as well. You can see the high ground in play here. Corker's all the way up on the pedestal with his teammates fragmented into basically a triple threat beneath him. Furia swung on from the sidelines. That's Dagestan dealing damage.
Not likely they'll be able to get Furia back up again either. I think what he was trying to do there is get as much information as possible. Milky Way might be able to bail him out, but the bail might just be too expensive here for him. No one can get towards him. Corker would have to give up his high ground position to res him. Milky Way just does not have the time. He's probably going to get the buggy and just send away. This is the issue with playing this split, and for Fury, it had to be much, much more silent in this play if he wanted to get away with doing something like that, because I think providing the information back is absolutely monumental for them, very valuable too. But the issue comes with the fact that if you go down, he's not getting back up again, and from what a position that could have been a big win for them, now they're down to 3 players. Is it even possible anymore?
And reviving him obviously went out the window a while ago. But hang on. Wait a minute. They're actually trying to make a maneuver with this. They've been able to push their way down. They're looking to try and make a bit of a play here. Meanwhile, you've got a bit of a fight kicking off as well with KASIK team that have instigated one. The drawback from Dagestan means they're giving up on the ground that they've been able to take by pushing the whole way around, keeping the pressure on. They ate so many bullets that Shifu was low, so they turned tail and set their focus back round onto Gladiators, where now means, timing-wise, this might have worked out for MUERTE to get the spacing off and reset themselves. Yeah, they actually did save him on that one, so you've got everyone back up. Wow, that's relatively rambunctious. I can't believe they actually were able to pull off the timing on that. That's really nice.
Yeah, I respect that from Malai as well, giving up the position, looks to pick up his teammate. With this circle, like, they know they want all the players on board. Aza still trying to keep it going, but a nade through the window will take him down as we hit our next circle, which centers down towards the south side, opening up this very interesting terrain going forward. KASIK over towards our east, and MUERTE playing from that high ground. I have a sneaking suspicion that VULGAR boys could just sit this game out in that compound and potentially win off the back of it. Do I predict them though? That's the question. That's the real question.
It would be a surprise game. A ton of events if VULGAR boys are able to edge their way further out. Early doors yet though, with so many squads still remaining, it feels like this game could go either way. Hard to call at this point, but there's definitely some strong contenders in terms of their locations at least. Some good angles with the high ground that's been taken. Is the circle going to play in their favor? That's the one big question. The MUERTE still being able to utilize the hard ground that they've got to work with, high ground even, probably is a hard angle to clear them out of though. They're just going to be working on that edge. Looking at Woodsome, man's on the move slightly. Milky Way should get contact on him depending on the way he's actually peeking this. So I'm curious to see where this will go.
Be interesting for them. Meku looks over towards TUNA. Abito just in the smoke, unlikely. Going to get away from this. I think he's just stuck there now. It really depends how many smokes he's got left. Try and pull out the nade, get it quickly as across as possible. Meku taking some nice pot shots, and we'll have to get back into a little bit of cover. For Gladiators, this is not an easy push, and they still have to get up towards PERMITTA. With Dagestan full sightlines towards them, PERMITTA can just start sending nades downwards. That could have easily taken down Meku there. He was low HP. Kitsune just dropping some more smokes, trying to get up the staging here. Athis on the side. Matic's going to look see if he can clear him out here. That smoke is a telltale sign, though, that someone's playing in this area.
Dagestan. Still Dagestanding after so long. They've had some weird fights on this one. A lot of uphill battles. And again, they're rolling the nades down. Denying the push. Buying a bit of time for the reset. Okay, Meku. We were speaking about him way back at the start of the day, saying the firepower that this guy packs is through the roof, and he's influential when he's let loose with a sniper scope attached. For max precision. Man on a mission right now to put bullets down range and end TUNA like shooting fish in a barrel. They go rolling away as they're out in 11th place. SBG aggresh onto PERMITTA as well, whilst clashing with Team KASIK at the same time, it seems. And even now Major Pride getting stuck into the whole bloody affair as they're on top of one another. Oh, blank. A bit of an awkward one in terms of hitting yourself. A bit of bonetry going on. It's not looking good. Clearing on the side as well. Tixi goes in as they're just scrapping their way through PERMITTA.
Last play attempt here, looks to challenge versus the guys on Gladiators. We'll find the first one. Tixi's very low and will hit him from back the side. Takes out his feet, just Matic left remaining. Has to go big on this engagement. Nice, pretty calm.
Yeah, it looked like it was going to be a bit more explosive, but that's the way the cookie crumbles in the end, I guess. It finished off. Trofka, ooh, all right, if there is someone to give a bit of gas to in the commentary, probably is this guy, right? He's been having some big games again and again. In a spot like this, he's 1v3 in him. He's trying to hard handle him, but Victor, vicious as ever with the shotgun, silences him.
Managed to get up there. I mean, to be fair, Trofka, like you say, really does need us to respect the name a little bit, because he's been making some massive moves, some massive plays as of recent, which has been slightly surprising to me, but I love to see it. Now, English on a mission, on his lonesome. 2 eliminations total for KASIK, and a position that could have really taken them as far as possible. Looking over towards Gladiators. Now, Gladiators have had a really tough go at it. Like, they've had to take down TUNA Esports. They knew the angle would become problematic. Meku kept peeking a position that was likely to take him down, but he just knew how important it was. Furia, top side nade, takes down 2, will look for another. The 1v3 comes through, and Furia. Huge plays from this guy. Big money.
Oh, mate. Furia the Ferocious. Ever fantastic to watch with the way that he plays. Mechanical skill through the roof and the gun skill to boot. Just putting bullets on everyone. And nades blowing them away. Projecting them so much further in the course of this game then. 5 eliminations as well. Sitting pretty so far, but the rotations are coming out as they've got to get downhill fast. Corker with the Mini 14, but he's taking major damage from the side. Meanwhile, Milky Way is crumbled in 2. He got down towards the low ground, sure, but all it did was leave him exposed to unicorns of love that have been able to trample all over him with those sparkly hooves.
Oh, yes. I like the sound of that. That would be a sight to behold, wouldn't it? I do respect that, though, from MUERTE. Leave 2 players behind as backstops to ensure that at least Malloy and Furia can go on. Yes, they leave their teammates behind, but at least these 2 lads that we know have serious firepower on side can continue a little bit longer. VULGAR underneath in a compound of their own. Gladiators still fighting this one out. They are desperately low on supplies, though. Frozen comes in with a Molotov just in time to get that res off, and Dino trying to get not too close towards that fire. Blisters on the hand, but still firing.
He's got the nade ready. Nomi as well, set up similarly towards top side, switches back to the DBS, and he's actually looking to instigate now. Third person peek around the wall so he can get the info. Realize the Molotov is spreading to block off the angle. Basically just has to play off the contact of Dino. That's what this is all about. Oh, could be a really perfectly placed nade though. That's a good instigator. Now the pressure's flipped. They're thinking about Nomi. They're not worried as much about Dino. They're going to be drawn towards him. 2Liquor and Co looking to clear the angles. The dive by as Frozen slays onto Nomi. Dino wants to trade pre-fire in a corner.
Oh my!
It's not enough, mate.
2Liquor flies round the corner, able to pick him up, and we talked about Major Pride versus the Bulls themselves, and it feels like the King Cows come out on top there. I am very surprised that worked out. I mean, that could have been disastrous for MADBULLS. SPG still going strong, though, get themselves into a compound, but not too far in as Furia. He is just going absolutely crazy, windmilling at him.
Oh, he's so sick with it.
Does not want to lose another match to silly shenanigans. I mean, look at that. He had no bullets left remaining, but finally, care package comes his way. He'll swipe all the loot that's inside, be happy with it. Gladiators attempted to get down. VULGAR also has to move up. It's big man, Foops man on the case, looking to finish off Gladiators here.
Lord Foops moving along, but he's eating nades. That's a chunky one. Blown off his legs now, but dealing damage still as he hits on the Gladiators. Dixie down. Oh, mate. How has Kitsune learned to throw grenades that far? His forearms are made of steel. Engages off the back of it as well, looking to leave all of us feeling ill with these plays as he goes peeking over the ridge. He's ready for the combat on this. Pin pulled, nade going to be chucked towards his feet, tries to hit the quick headshot, realizes though he's taken a bit too much damage on the contact, backs up towards the smoke, peppering into it is enough. The SMG will connect and Kitsune's gone.
Finally able to do it, but Kitsune was malicious, he was vicious towards that fight, that engagement. A lot of ill intent going over towards the lads from VULGAR. Great nades. There's that 1v3 coming through from Furia. MADBULLS look to finish a little bit more rough, but Furia is still going. Malloy is down. A nade might put him to bed though, but I think Furia wants to stay awake just a little bit longer in this game. He's high on this adrenaline at the moment. It's pushing him through these terrifying moments.
When Furia is fragging like this, you just want to keep letting him go off the leash. Just play off of his confidence and really run wild. Similar sort of things happening for MADBULLS as well, as they're stampeding towards the oncoming traffic, dealing damage back onto VULGAR. And this is VULGAR that have made it so far into the game as well. Foops man and co probably thinking maybe this is the one, boys. We can try and grab onto that chicken dinner. But the longer it goes on, the longer they're starting to expire. Foops man trapped behind the tree. The roster down to just 2, forced to play medic to get them back up.
They legit have such good position as well, bro. I don't know why we're peeking. I don't know why we're peeking this. MADBULLS has to leave this compound out the smoke. At this point in time, you do not want to be rezzing members. This is where you want to be taking the side swipe. And MADBULLS have comfortably got into the circle. And Takimi is now afraid to peek. Finds a push through. Zerich goes very low, but can still pick him up. This is where the nades have to come into play. Gets thrown over the top. Hopefully gets him off the money. Nate goes down. They're still going. Zerich out of the game. Frozen, still left alive.
The timing of it couldn't have been better as well to save the bacon of the MUERTE.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, right? They're fumbling around, trying to heal themselves, trying to get themselves back into the game. Just as they peak, it's when MADBULLS went for the all-in crash down onto the MUERTE's compound, looking to flush them out. They eat the damage, and Furia, you talk about someone that's sick with nades. This guy's insane. He can make such big plays, and he's got them trapped right where he wants them, flanking up on the side of the ridge. They're debating
waiting now. We know we're being pushed. We know we've got to instigate a fight somewhere. Where do we go? Even though VULGAR have the most players left on a squad, they look timid.
Mate, the nades as well that he's got on side, 5 of them. Right now, VULGAR just has to send themselves round. Furion knows he has to get away, get a little bit of cover, play on the sidelines here. It's actually not a bad position for him because he can quite comfortably isolate some of these 1v1s. Nake is there, just about finds the angle. Corker's going to have to move off his position. Another Molotov through the smoke. Keeps Fury at bay a little bit longer, but in comes the medical kit. Will keep him up nice and top. Corker, very low, almost makes it out.
They're going for the all-in. Oh, the nade, though. That could be the difference maker. The haymaker hit from the HE, holding them back quite nicely. He's going to get the follow-up one out as well. Furia, how many knocks and eliminations has he had off nades alone? That one should be on the money as well. Dashes it right above the head, switches to the SMG. Heavy damage, but not enough to finish. Just wounding them and opening up the game for MADBULLS to swoop on in and snatch away what could potentially be their chicken dinner if Frozen can survive this last test. A 1 versus 3.
Dude, the DBS here, full HP. Both players looking a little bit worse for wear here. The Kimi with the AKM setting himself up. This 2v1 has to be good. It's opening up now.
The clouds are parting, presenting us with what will be our final battle. One man, Frozen, too cold to hold. Oh, they're giving him the opportunity. Peeking into it with the shotty pump after pump, dealing damage. Needs one more, and Frozen, he breaks the ice on that one and clutches away the chicken dinner for MADBULLS.
Dude, the setup on that as well from Frozen. He knew that there was that little ridge to play around that was going to be disgusting with the DBS. Baits them in over the top. They try and rush him down. And they just line up for the lad. And MADBULLS will find themselves a win. Major pride into MADBULLS. Today is just destiny being taken by some of these teams. We're going to get a quick replaying of that because honestly, it was ridiculous, Jackie.
It really was. It really was. You know, the choreography of PUBG Mobile to boil us down to this final fight. And then the way they're pushing him. They basically just play it as a solo blank. They had the edge. They had the edge.
Dude, you just either take 2 angles, never line up like that. And never predict VULGAR, apparently. They should have won that game. I mean, it was rough. It looked bad, but it was all the cards are stacked in their favor. I don't understand, dude. I don't think the Des does either. I was going to head back over towards Kalaris and the lovely Maxman.
Okay.
Oh, that's got to sting. Oh, MADBULLS, though. The DBS, ka-chong, is able to make it work. Man, why were they stood on top of each other versus the DBS? One of the only good weapons in close range that's going to do splash damage.
Yeah, they tried to do the Dragon Ball fusion and they became weaker in the process of doing that. They just... I mean, yeah, Frozen just waited things out and he's like, wait, I have a dip. You're pushing literally on top of one another. The DBS, I think he hit one bullet where it hit both players.
Of course.
and it choked them both down to mid HP, I think, on the first or second shot. You can't give that to them, VULGAR boys. You need to start... Like, yeah, I'm going to be mean. I'm sorry. I'll stop now.
Bit of a disaster for VULGAR boys here. They're unable to round things out when they probably should have here, given the situation. But I think the problem that VULGAR boys goes up against is the fact that the players that they're going up against, Max, at the very end, are 2 insane players. We're seeing a lot of nades coming out from Fury, from MUERTE here to try and shut them down. And then at the end, MADBULLS is able to round things out. So they got absolutely crushed under sheer experience, it felt like, on this kind of stage.
As you're talking about Furia, I was very surprised that VULGAR boys were not willing to hold their ridgeline more, at least scout with that third-person perspective. Furia got way too close, and he had 5-6 nades at the time, and they were in a little bit of a dip, so very prone to nade damage, and they lost a player pretty much instantly. I think it was Pylads that got nade right in the face as he was pushing to. So, yeah, 2 really, really strong players, as you said, and unfortunately, a 3-man team of VULGAR boys was just not going to cut it. 7 elims.
Yeah, really impressive stuff by MUERTE here. I really enjoyed the fact that MUERTE, technically speaking, yes, okay, you have that high ground area on the west side that you can play from, but then everything else about the center of the circle, brutal terrain to try and work with. So what does MUERTE do? They fan out across every open shack they can possibly find. And actually, for the most part, that was almost the winning strategy here, Max, but not to be due to the end situation.
Yeah, I actually thought it was a salvage play. Like, okay, chances are we're not going to be winning this game because the terrain is just horrific to play through. Let's try and spread our wings, have multiple little sheds or angles to play for. And they started to realize that all the teams were dying to one another on the east and the northern side, thinking, okay, there's a chance we could win things out. Let's maybe regroup. I think it was Malloy that was sent over to Furia. They're trying to play it as a duo. I think that was a really good idea, but then you just have solos coming around. It makes it very tough to really wrap up the game as you would like. But yeah, another strong performance of MUERTE. A bit salty. They can't quite confirm a win today yet, but they're getting those podiums. They are getting a lot of points on board here. And I did speculate they might be up in top 3 right now.
Yeah, I almost went with the double MUERTE pick myself. I picked them in the previous game. I almost picked them here, but then I was like, you know, maybe it's going to be hard to get towards the middle of the circle. It turns out that was absolutely not the problem for them whatsoever. But MADBULLS, talk about the clutch capabilities of this team. I mean, they're on the east side of this circle. They're kind of sandwiched, a little bit pinched by some of these other teams that are coming in their way here, but being able to clutch it out the way it happened with the DBS. I'm always about that, man. Always about that.
I'd always compare MADBULLS to Gladiators in the sense that you have every single one of their players that has a clutch factor. Like everyone, Zerich can clutch. Flique, we've seen it happen. Frozen did it just now. Talika, absolute madman when you allow him to just start popping off in these matches. So a single player is all they really need sometimes to secure a win, just like they did here, though. I feel like we talked about it, and you pointed out a few times at the start of the game. We had a lot of shifts that were not really fun for these teams to deal with, which unfortunately did force a lot of teams up in the northern side. So you had a lot of fights happening, like Shockwave versus PERMITTA. You had, of course, Gladiators taking a fight versus TUNA, then SPG getting involved. Like, they were all getting squished over those hilltops. That was making that transition point just so much tougher for a lot of those teams getting pushed by the blue zone.
It's a very difficult location. I was talking to you about this location in general whilst the game was going on, right? The majority of the time that me and Blank are playing and we're ever near this location is when we're dropping over San Martin and looking for cars to go to Monte Nuevo. We don't stop here. It's not good. It's kind of a rubbish spot to be in. But yeah, we can see the downhill perspective from the back of where we're looking at Fury here, and all of these little shacks and things that people have to play. There's some terrain here, but for the most part, it's quite featureless, looking down into this valley where MUERTE is losing a few of these members. So unfortunate for them, considering that I think, honestly, aside from this clutch, I think MUERTE played the best game here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think MUERTE played the best game. They were, especially one player we need to talk about this game, and I feel like was so important to clear so much space for MUERTE, is actually Corker, right? He was playing with the Mini 14 on top of the mountain up north of it, and he was just getting absolute ton of information and damage done. I think he had over 1,000 damage, so just under half of the damage done by the entirety of MUERTE, as they are just shy of 2.5k. But yeah, Corker really just paved a way for the team to go downhill afterwards. Clear Dagestan 77, which I think, Alaris, that fight versus Dagestan was so well executed. They just pushed up as a 4-man team onto Dagestan, clear up the entire squad, and from that point onwards, they're the solo team on the western edge.
Yeah, not too bad at all here by them. So considering that they're kind of starting off the day very hot, it seems like there's a good opportunity here to see more from MUERTE. We've seen them come out very furiously in some of the earlier stages of the games, but here they're surviving towards the late. Let's take a look at those overalls and see if this has been able to shift them up in the standings at all. They move into 3rd place with this one. Major Pride, still at #1, but MADBULLS hot on their heels now after getting themselves, again, what was a clutch victory, Max?
Yeah, exactly. Really clutch game coming on through. But MADBULLS, they're always going to keep getting those points on board. So I'm not, to be honest, I'm not even looking at Major Pride MADBULLS anymore. I'm like, yeah, okay, they're just going to keep cruising at the top. I'm looking at the teams below a bit more, like your MUERTEs, your Dagestans, your Titan, which I'm still waiting to see what they can do. They were, of course, not playing this game, but they're going to come back on this next match over on Sanhok. So I'm still looking at VIRTUS.PRO, though. I think that they've shown some good moments throughout this phase. compared to phase 1, and I want to see them reach a top 4. I'd be happy with a top 4 from VIRTUS.PRO this phase. I think they have the chops to do it, so I'm waiting to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. Let's take a look a little further than 8th as well here, because big shifts have occurred. We have ourselves Gladiators down on the 2nd page. This might end up being, if they continue this kind of trend, this might be one of their worst phases of all time.
Can't have a bad phase because PMGC points, MADBULLS, and Major Pride are doing so good. Like, they can't afford to have this bad phase continue. They need to bring it back as soon as possible.
No, definitely. I'm going to start looking through some of the past results and see how bad this is relative to some of the other phases, right? Because considering that oftentimes, more so than not, we always see them not only on that first page, but usually top 3, top 4, mulling around there, trying to keep themselves going. So don't know what's happened this phase, really. It feels like they've kind of slipped back into old tendencies of just being a little bit slow on about getting towards some of these circles and trying to play it out, Max.
I just looked actually at their previous games. They had a 3rd place with 5 eliminations, and then the 2nd place was 9 eliminations, and that's it. Outside of those 2 matches, this full 2nd phase. So like they've been having a really tough time, and they need to bring it back because the clock is ticking. That PMGC position is not going to be safe for them, and we know the championship is going to be tough. They need to bring it back as soon as possible.
All right, well, thank you to Monster for joining us here for PMPL EU Fall as they keep us energized and good to go. Let's keep that energy high. Let's roll into Sanhok with Jackie and Blank.
We're rolling in, Blank. We're getting in there. We're going straight into Sanhok, mate. This should be a treat. I think we've had some banging Sanhok games over the past few play days, bud.
Yeah, we're the cheese wheel right now. Again, we're rolling now. It's good to see. Over towards Sanhok, bit of a hotter map. I think we'd melt up before we even got towards the center circle, mate, to be quite frank with you. But yeah, some insane matches so far on Sanhok. Some really strong ones. And some of our, teams that have risen through the ranks have had their best matches here on Sanhok. I'm particularly looking at VIRTUS.PRO in particular. And I think one thing that is probably the most surprising on the leaderboard at the moment is VULGAR Boys in 7th place. We don't talk about them much, but they just put up points every single game. And yeah, I don't think they're on themselves towards like a podium finish, but just remaining relevant throughout the phases is good enough because that might just give you a chance at championships. I did want to continue the conversation just a little bit over from the desk though, with Kalaris and Maxman talking about Gladiators, because that PMGC placing is actually so much more important for them than I think that what we can really look at right now. We have to look towards the future to realize how important it is, because for them, championships have been a bit squiffy at times, right? And then they head over towards the league stage of PMGC, and that's where they start to fizzle out a bit. I'd like to see Gladiators just hit PMGC straight away, because on a 3-day setting, 4-day setting, depending on how long we see PMGC, that's where they can really hit their stride. And it's very unfortunate watching Gladiators play so well all year round just to get knocked out in PMGC League with some unlucky games. But right now, this is not unlucky. This is just purely them being quite trepidatious on a lot of these rotations.
Trepidatious. Nice, mate. Yeah, good use. Work it in. Work it in.
That's it.
Yeah, all right.
Like I was talking about the other week.
I gotta continue it over. Oh, nightmare. A bit, bit trepidatious there for TNA, mate. TUNA already losing purple. Bit rough. We can hone in on that, actually. Let's see how things are going down here to kick off Sanhok. Ooh, apparently shotgun flavored with an aftertaste of TUNA as they're being pounded. He's making sashimi, Blank. That's what he just did there.
Oh, I don't think I like the sound of that. A little bit of lead and tuna.
Lead and fist. My favorite sushi tactic.
Horrible. What is this restaurant you've taken me to, mate?
Jackie's Wacky Warehouse, just on the high street.
I've walked in, I've received a fist to the face, a little bit of lead's been like peppered around my mouth and then been fed tuna. Didn't like it at all.
Just like flinging gunpowder in your face.
Yeah, just taking it quite stylishly though, like Salt Bay. Yeah,
Gun Bay.
Oh, that's what we've got going right now. I think, you know what, we should have Gun Bay become the new thing in PUBG
That's
Mobile.
good, yeah, we should work
right
that
now.
in.
Who's Gun Bay of the week? I'm going to go for Nomi. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. All right, I can run with that. He's current Gunbay, unless someone knocks him off. But right now, he holds the title.
Yeah,
he has the bandana.
He's on top of the leaderboard right now. For,
that's the Photoshop we need. Production are going to hate it.
They will hate it. They will hate it. We'll get a real one made as well, just in case Gunbei does make it to PMGC. We can hand it off to him there. I'll have to contact some wholesale suppliers, but that's fine. I'm more than happy to do that.
We'll do the brand deal, mate. I'll get Salt Bay on the line. He'll come and hand the trophy over personally.
There's a little bit.
He has no idea what's happening. Yeah, just really confused.
You sprinkle that over Nomi's head. That's great. Thank you, bro.
Yeah, right, there you go. There's your paycheck. Oh, that's good. That's nice. That's a good way to ease us into the Sanhok game.
Wonderful.
Yeah, everyone's on the same page. We've invented a new type of Sanhok banter. This is good.
That's all we want to see. I mean, not much has happened, so that's fine. You know, Gunbei was a nice little side distraction that we'll bring back later on as the main event. But over towards the northeast side at the moment, it has where our circle led to. KONINA Power, got 2 players in Paris Resort right now and 2 players trash looting down towards that south side, just the west of Barn. So again, I think KONINA Power slowly revving up the engines. You know, they were in pretty much reverse at the start of the week, but I think we're starting to head in towards those later gears now for KONINA Power as they start to get things back on site, because their phase 1 was good. I actually really liked their phase 1. Quite a team that definitely surprised a lot of us here on the broadcast. And I really do enjoy that, because I think it's surprising teams that often you do get some of the best players moving through. You know, even back in the day, I think it was a year ago, we saw Flique playing for MUERTE. And they didn't necessarily do massively well, right? But what happened after that was, you know, Flique has some really big pop-off moments. Now he's on MADBULLS, one of the best players in EU. So I think that players on KONINA Power, there could be a rising star there. I really, truly believe it.
And with how some of these games have been going, it feels like our sort of level of competition across the board has been raising. You know, all of the sort of ships here are being brought up with the rising tide, and we're getting a lot closer games, some more interesting finishes in terms of squads that weren't really, you know, giving us their best work, now starting to contend and get closer and closer towards chicken dinners. It feels like there's been a bit of a shake-up, at least, over the past few days. So we'll see if that trend continues, or what we're going to be looking at when the dust settles a little bit.
I mean, there's been shifts.
Meanwhile,
okay.
I just wanted to see what the Nameless were up to. Yeah, just don't see him too often.
You really struck me with like a curveball there. The meanwhile is such a curveball. I'm like, wait, what's going on? I don't know.
Like Pokemon, mate. You know, it's like the intro to the anime.
Meanwhile, over on this side,
the beast has found himself ammo.
To be continued. But yeah, I think, to be fair, there has been a big shift in meta. Talk about what we talked about before. We're not going to stay on meanwhile. Is that, you know, players like Gunbei, Nomi, as well as Havlik, have championed this new style of the quick off angle. And I think it's especially important for a fair few teams, because we are seeing more and more players do this now. Even Matic's quite good at it, is just sending far off towards the side once you've cleared the arena, scraped yourself a bit of landmass to play around with. And then off the back of that, you're able to isolate players into locations they weren't before. And I do think Nomi sort of perfected this alongside with the rest of his team, because not all him. Havlik does it extremely well just in terms of getting pickoffs, but Nomi does it effectively. I think that's the best way to put it here, where he can force teams into angles where Naomi is so good at lobbing those HE grenades over towards teams that if they're locked into buildings, he could just pinpoint exactly where players are. They have to be on the front side. They can't peek out the back because Naomi's watching that angle. I can toss that nade in and most likely get a double knock or even just a single knock to open things up. So that's why Major Pride have been finding so much success, because as a team now, playing off the back of one another is really starting to become quite scary.
Spooky, scary, skeletons. The classic. Oh, nice. Look at this. The moves from Xepa, mate. Man's on the moped. You love to see it.
Oh, yeah. This is the original Warped.
Oh, yeah, bud. He's ready for action. Here we go, though. Get the overview of where our teams are up to right now.
Where's everyone shuffling in from? Shockwave taking a bit of a slower approach as they'll come over from Hattin a little bit later on into this one. Nexus actually inside of the zone already as well. They've been pilfering towards the edge side, just grabbing whatever they can.
Amazing.
But now actually moving up further towards Paradise Resort. This is surprising. I think this is twice now today. We've seen Nexus not actually being one of the last teams to enter the zone. Actually, you know, kind of playing a little bit more forward thinking. And they had some really good games over the first 3 days of play this week. You know, I think individually there was some ridiculous moments. We had the human grenade launcher error. We had some crazy plays few and far between that as well. But now looking like they are playing with a little bit better pacing into some of these rotates. Bit of a clash going on across the battleground, it seems, as well, with a few trades left, right, and center. Teams dealing damage to one another. We're on the POV of VULGAR boys right now, hot off the back of their second place in the last game, trying to make their move here to evade TUNA. Meanwhile, VP are stuck into a 5 versus KONINA power. You've also got the PFV of Titan. They're all trying to get through one doorway. There's a bouncer holding the entry point. Reflect was finding pickup after pickup, but he's finally overwhelmed.
Oh, I mean, that was terrifying to work with. And Titans knew they had to get in. They're fairly central, though, as well. So not a bad spot for them at the moment. Alpha did just have oversight on that. Robs did go down. But 3 players on Sanhok, definitely doable, still workable, honestly. Major Pride also quickly moved outside of boot camp. They're over towards this northwest side. Actually, such a nice spot to play around with, Jackie. You know, moving down towards this southeast from that edge, just the south side of Paris Resort. That's kind of bread and butter gameplay for Major Pride, but more action on your screens as MADBULLS comes in thick and fast over towards No Mercy Warriors, and they're fighting back right now.
Ooh, Frozen. Normally so strong on these sorts of close angle holds with a DBS, but this time Wastik will be able to overwhelm him as he's able to hit that shot and shut the man down. Zerish as well being peppered inside of the smoke. He's moving back up to get better cover, but it's Sheepa from so far away that is able to wrangle control of the MADBULLS and stop them from continuing on with any sort of back-to-back chicken dinners in today's play day. So silencing their run, at least for now, on Sanhok. Rotate back around as well, as Sheepa will be saved by Tenchik, so they can get into a better angle, potentially already thinking about the next fight they want to deal with. That could very well be Titan, that are trapped inside of the compound below.
Yeah, right now for Alpha, it's a pretty easy game for them. Just looking at what they want to do next, which is a case of just keep tabs on Titan. Making that crossover the road would have been nice for them, but again, because Mandarin has oversight on this, crossing that road will require smokes, and then even getting up the hillside, even more smokes to cover that one off. So for the guys on Titans, with not a lot of utility there available, I mean, investing that much is probably just better for them to hold down on this building. Just try their cards at where the circle's going to land. Same for Alpha. They currently have high ground. They don't need to force this engagement down towards the southwest side. If this heads up towards the northeast, they can go for that. Dagestan might be a bit of a danger, though, for Alpha, because they just sent over towards the other side of the valley. Luckily, we do see their reflect spotting them out straight away, so very good information gathering, good scouting coming through from this team. And with a central spot like this over towards the ridge side, could be a good game here for Alpha.
Could be, you'd hope so. See if they can just maintain the pace they've been able to find for themselves. A little bit of a tease there, VP on your screens as well. But we'll roll back history because we want you to see this. The play from Astic, where he went absolutely huge with the DBS. This was MADBULLS dying breath on that one as they were taken out of the game.
Yeah, it was a rough rotate for them, man, because they rotate through. Titans had eyes on them. I mean, Titans were shooting at absolutely everybody in that situation. Yeah. So it could have actually been the play for MADBULLS, but disjointed, bro.
Yeah, if it worked, you know, would have been singing their praises, but not meant to be. No Mercy Warriors really just showing no mercy on that one, so kind of left them unstuck, really. All right, VULGAR boy, wrapping in through the back. Down towards where No Mercy are. Titan still trapped inside of the building as well. VP above them. Major Pride right there. Ooh, okay. This is getting a bit more iffy with the way that this circle's going. All the fights are going to start kicking off as well. There's going to be basically dinner bells being rung all over the shop. And TUNA with the first to fall. MUERTE taking heavy hits as well as they've been flanked up upon by Dagestan. And this is what I was talking about. You're just going to have these initial scraps kicking off that could go on for quite some time now. MUERTE looking to try and pull a fast one on Dagestan. They re-engage, Blank.
Yeah, Marloy came in, rescue play from him. Nade goes through, bounces off the tree, might hit Furia. He knows he has to instantly hit the deck. Marloy's still desperately trying to find them. There's only so many places left can be, and Furia has a nade for him. We'll put it back in the pocket because Marloy has got this one. Really, really good play from Marloy. Not an easy fight to take as well over towards Barnside. Like, you're moving up towards a position where a lot of information can be quickly gathered of where you're heading towards, and so much hard cover to already set up from for Dagestan. And that's just sort of the power for TUNA. They're able to get into these engagements really quickly, find themselves some value straight off the back of things. And Dagestan was left fumbling a little bit in the dark, trying to look for how can we solve this scenario. And by that time, Marloy had already ran up and taken down a couple of players. So they're very quick thinking, I would say, is TUNA, and which is what makes them so good in these scrappy engagements. I think we've not seen them too much on Sanhok recently from TUNA because they are so insistent on staying down towards Camp Charlie and holding that bridge when we get a south circle. If anything, I would say the northern circles for TUNA are where they start to shine a bit more, because I think they just assume they have more freedom of movement.
And that's what it feels like really they excel in, right? As soon as they have a little bit more breathing room, and they do have those situations where they can opt to take fights, opt to just pounce onto a third party, they look so much better. They look so much cleaner in terms of their real way of playing it. Having a look here, though, I don't know, man. There's a bit of me that's starting to think maybe VP have really got something to be said for this game, especially with how the zone's moving as well. This is going to force some issues. You're going to have that clash that's got to go down with Shockwave and Major Pride, as they're all going to want to start to close the gap between one another. Shockwave already seemed to be firing out a few bullets, so maybe their position's now compromised. Naomi, he took a hefty hit, but tucked in behind the rock and recovers.
Again, this is going to be one of the harder pushes for Major Pride. We've seen them do ridiculous things in the past, getting through almost unbreakable barricades, but this might be just one too much as the Foops man does come in clutch there, will find Effect. Top fragger for the team. No, I keep calling Effect the top fragger for the team, and he has been MVP many times in the past, very reliable, but again, I have to respect Gunbay. Nomi, I can't not. I think I have to switch things up. I have to switch it. Realistically, Effect's now more of a support player too, Nomi.
It just feels like there's so much talent that it's hard to call right now, especially with how ridiculous the play days have been for Major Pride recently. Maybe the whole team's just Gunbay, you know? Squad Bay is what we're looking at here.
Yeah. A new title. That's like a blue bandana. We got the red bandana for Gunbay.
It's like a karate system. Goes through the colors, the better you get.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, that's why. Look at the chop on that. That's a black belt maneuver.
Oh, it really is. I'm feeling like I might have to have like a Batman moment really here. Go for the whole, gonna have to order 10,000 products to avoid suspicion on the bandanas. But at least we'll have spares, of course.
Oh, yeah, mate. Just in case. You know, one for Monday, one for Tuesday. Maybe rewear the one on Wednesday. They need to have it perfectly clean all the time. Kapahala, that'll be relatively clean though. Gets the adjustment shot off, does a little bit of damage, and softens up. What remains a dark project here. Man, okay. I really like the way that this is probably going to develop here. This is basically setting us up a bit like dominoes because of how close the spacing is with such little really blocking any of the lines of sight in terms of the map geometry. So as soon as one fight kicks off, you're going to open that can of worms of the dominoes just falling on top of one another. Already, the play zone's starting to be a bit of a fickle mistress as well, nipping at the heels as they're pushed in. We've got Foops man being hit in the head and shut down there. The nade is outrageous, though. Goodbye, Major Pride.
That's some cheeky points there for Takimi. 3 on the board almost immediately. Dark Project trying to hold off versus Shockwave as Terminus tries to get in, takes some shots, but luckily Kespo's there, holding them off, goes for one more, but it's not enough. That could have been the full wipe. Octavian spots this one out, though, and we'll just rock in with the rest of the team. Exo and Kapahala, one goes down, nade through the window. That should be it.
Kapahala, the warlord, always hoarding nades for situations like this. Blows the door off, goes for the peek, eats it, though, as the slugs are going to really be finding impact here. The shotty denying the entrance through the doorway. He goes for the peek as well. Oh, I like the idea. Smart decision-making, using the peek as advantage to swing on him. But Exo, perfect placement with the crosshair, blows him away.
Yeah, knew he had to do something. Knew he's heading out. Quick flick on the shoddy. Yeah, big respect to that play coming through from Kaz. VIRTUS.PRO, they make a wide wrap over towards this northeast side. They hear all the engagement this side. They want to get involved on this one. This is the first time in quite some time that we see VIRTUS.PRO getting involved early on. I mean, stage 5, usually when they come alive is at this point in the game, to be honest. So, good initial start there. Just prod, just poke them a little bit. Me and Maxman, we go for Alpha Team. Tenchik, though, pulls his Tenchik ways, head over towards the eastern side. Not necessary, in my opinion. Will get taken out because of that wide split that he went for. But VIRTUS.PRO, they're just losing members left, right, and center. Gonna have to get the boy in the car. Not working. It's not worth it. It's not worth it, lads.
Oh, God. It was all going really nicely. It was squeaky clean. And now it's not anywhere near as clean. That's a nightmare. That's actually like worst case scenario. VP fans across the world crying out in heartache. Oh, the input coming back to betray him there.
I mean, it is the kindness, though. Does try to get his boy back up in the action. Exo sends through. Will take a nasty tag in the process. Should be taken down here by Wait. I think he somehow gets through. Has a shotgun as well. We'll find the first one. And he's peppering over towards Wait now.
It's so fitting as well that it's NEXUS that are able to kick this fight back up, pick it up where they left off.
Way.
Oh, Exo doubles up. Man, this is, you know, an Exo squad that basically limped away from VP. And then Exo goes back in to get absolute revenge on the VIRTUS.PRO team, really putting them in the dirt and shutting them down. Sure, both squads are gone, but you're going to be happy with that one at least. Huge plays from Exo.
Yeah, seriously good. I mean, this was the start of the Shack showdown because we had so many teams heading up towards this location time and time again. Stressful, stressful. No Mercy Warriors on the other side of this compound looking over towards Titans. They do have that high ground advantage, but again, they will have to push over towards them eventually. I think they are currently... No, yeah, all other teams are at 3 at most. You got VULGAR with 2, Unicorns are Love with 2. 0 eliminations on their side, though. Alpha still doing very, very well. Looking down towards Fuchsman, who's going to get a full resupply here. Look at that. Utility all on board back again. And tossing some of these nades will be easy uphill, but the smokes will certainly give them in.
Launches that defensive utility out to block off the line of sight. Nicely placed, actually. You know, really does ruin the peak here from Mandarin. Makes his angle nowhere near as impactful. Fuchsman trying to get a read of the lay of the land. Look at the idea behind this one. Somehow got contact there onto the feet. The player in the smoke of No Mercy Warriors being watch me as he adjusts his crosshair. And does a nice amount of damage peppering over onto him. Titan, they're still just holding, expecting the push to come towards them. Peek through the window. No Mercy Warriors re-instigating the fight and opening up old wounds. Forces the hand of old boy to go on a recovery mission.
Wow.
Oh, that is lucky.
Gets him up as well, right on the edge of the circle, but it does move over towards that high ground. If Icy went down there, there's no chance in hell that Titans are able to bring this one back. A lot of resource been spent on Fuchsman at the moment, though, and he's been pretty amazing with it so far. Dropping down the smokes, pulling over the cloak of invisibility, and just crawling away from this.
He's just foopsing right now. Keeping himself out of trouble initially. Wants to wait until a fight kicks off. Play the timing card. Play the surprise factor. Titan Gaming saved by the bell, basically, in their rescue mission attempt with the zone nipping at the heels of No Mercy Warriors to keep them at a 3-man squad. They've got some contact. Fuchsman seems to have the DBS primed as well in his hands right now, but it's Unicorns of Loves that are just being peppered onto and taking so much damage. Bonnie on his last legs, lucky to still even be standing here.
Yeah, massively so. Reflect up on high ground. Should be able to look down towards this team, but he's trying to try and get the side swipe over towards Titans. Has spotted out Havlik. Maybe doesn't want to pull the trigger just yet. Allowed him to get a little bit closer. Understands that with that circle, now they have control. There was so much resources spent over towards Fuchsman. It's a little bit unideal. It allowed Titans to get into a position where they can start taking some of this hard cover. realistically, Titans should have been able to get up here in the first place, and they'll deal with Foosman for him. Mandarin goes down from Old Boy in the back. This is bad news now for Alpha. Reflect takes a heavy hit. There's a lot of amount of damage, but Unicorns will love moving up to him. He has to be really clutch here, Jackie.
He's like some sort of reverse Santa Claus. Dives off of the roof and goes running away. Oh, he's got presents to be delivered, though, and those are bullets. They're tagged for Bonnie, and he'll hit the man. Woodson sends one straight back. The nade blowing him off his legs. Pressure on Exeeper as well. Overwhelmed as Titan. They're bringing the thunder now. And they've got high ground. Old Boy. Oh, he's getting confident, Blank. And that's never what you want to be up against, as they've got high ground control. They're swarming onto what is left of Unicorns of Love. And that's just Woodson playing with the nades, eating some damage himself as he's trapped in this angle.
One man on the Unicorns of Love versus Titans. It's not looking good, and he just sends out into blue. He's going to leave the life behind. Icy will Molotov himself, which is fine, but they get in there, and Titans take a game from a spot where they just waited, man. And Alpha had all the information on. The reason they lose that game is just because of the mega focus over towards Foos, man. At that point, you just leave him alone. Titans took care of him anyway for them. He wasn't trying to get close towards Alpha Team in the first place. He's looking for a third, second place at best. The fact they had all the information on Titan's position as well for so long, they hear those engagements over towards No Mercy Warriors on the other side of that compound, don't think to peek it, allow them to get into that hard cover. It's just a misplayed endgame from Alpha. Realistically, they should win that game 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, no, you would imagine it should have been in their hands, right? The way they were playing it, you kind of get tunnel vision to thinking this is their game. It already makes sense. And then Titans, bro. Titans just run in and, you know, go Team Titans. Run away with that one. So there you go. They're able to pick up another victory. The week looks good for them. It wasn't a one-line burst on the first. Let's get back to the desk and break it down.
Titans is back. Maybe here on Sanhok, able to get themselves a great win off of what looked like it was going to be an Alpha hold on the high ground, but not to be. Titans, as well as Unicorns of Love, actually, are able to put the boot in against Alpha. Max joining me here to talk about this one. 19 points going the way of the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, a good transition point. I think that we really want to talk about the end of that game. I think it was such a smart execution from Titan. They were forced to take a fight versus Unicorns of Love. And like, we just don't want to fight Unicorns of Love right now. If we go northwest, we're forcing Unicorns of Love to fight Alpha Team directly, and we're just creating a problem for the 2 other teams, and then they can just pick up the pieces. So that move, I really want to like, maybe I'll have an illustration I also have to see, but like, maybe. That was a really big brain play from Titan to just force the 2 other teams to fight and just get whatever's left remaining and just get the win.
Yeah, very cool here. Of course, Alpha, I think when you have a compound like that, you need to be a bit more impactful on the edges of that compound and try and hold out teams before they really get up to some of the rocks that lead up to that compound, because they actually do provide quite a decent amount of cover. But Titans here alongside Alpha Team, pretty Sanhok numbers for this game. Not too much surprise when it comes to good old Sanhok, but I mean, I say that, we've had quite the anomaly when it comes to some of the team's performances in the past when it comes to Sanhok. Something like, again, close to 3k damage for a major pride win here on Sanhok. But yeah, we have ourselves this result as Titans now. I mean, we said at the beginning of the day here, Max, the fact that, as we take a look at the highlights, they had a day where it was an absolute disaster. So for them to get a win back on the board here against against adversity is very important for them to show that they can still do it. Ooh,
they were clearly not seen as like the favorites going in that circle, I'd say. They were definitely going to struggle to leave that compound. They were forced to take fights. They actually crashed that compound very early on, so they understood the potential value of such a position for the long term, like just opportunities they could offer to them.
Yeah.
I do like that they centered that early on, but yeah, the way they pushed uphill, Alpha Team should have applied more pressure, as you already stated. And not only that, I'm not sure that was a great nade, by the way, from Dakimi. 1 nade. I think there was a gas canister inside of there. That would explain the way they just got 3 inside.
Maybe.
Really good nade from Dakimi. But yeah, Tenchik was sent over to the far eastern edge, fighting versus the MUERTE and the Nameless. If he regroups with the team, they just fully focus on that one compound, I do think they have the fragging power to really stop Unicorns of Love and Titan from pushing up, but it was just not meant to be, it seems.
No, definitely not today. Look back at EXO, absolutely blasting. I will say, though, VIRTUS.PRO had, how do I describe this? Not the best game.
It's a very polite way to say it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so let's talk about it. They were a little bit hesitant about their push up against Nexus, and then they fumbled the rescue. Like, these two knock-on things, I mean, it happens in the space of what is effectively like a 30-second, 20-second window or something like that. But all of these things add up to the point where you're slow to the circle, and then you get exploited by even just a solo in EXO. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Octavian had a really good angle to really slow down the approach of VIRTUS.PRO. I think that if Octavian is not there, VIRTUS.PRO fully send it, but as you said, they're a bit hesitant. Then the blue zone, they lose a player. Then I think Ruda gets knocked by the blue zone because of that fumble, so they lose 2 players, not just 1, so it's really unfortunate. Though, looking at the stats, yeah, Sheepa up to 5 limbs, looking good. I still wanted my Alpha Team chicken dinner, but yeah, the split
I get what you mean.
rough. They did actually hold away MUERTE on the east, which that was not an easy defense to put up, but they did do it really well, and it was down to just Malloy, I believe. So good on Alpha Team banking down on that spot.
I mean, Alpha Team is a team that we did have some decent expectations of. No, wasn't going to finish the sentence there, Max. We have some decent expectations of, so it's unfortunate that they're not able to round it out in a situation like this where they have a decent compound to play from. They do still find themselves in 7th place, though, here towards that position, and Titan now jumps up into 3rd and still having a game in hand against the likes of MADBULLS and Major Pride, so there's still an opportunity for them to strike out of those top 2.
They were looking at Titan able to wrestle away a top 3 position away from MUERTE. So as I said, that's the fight I'm looking at right now. Your MUERTE, Titan, Dagestan, I think is an interesting back and forth towards those teams. Though VIRTUS.PRO, as you said, a little bit hesitant this game. I want to see them being more confident like we saw at the start of the second phase. It seemed like here they had a lot of hesitation happening.
Yeah.
But this is another roster, right, that could be playing so well, which is actually surprising. We haven't seen Madness play. That's something I wanted to mention is Madness is such a gifted player that we saw play in spring. He was so impactful. And yet he's been benched the entirety of the season. I think maybe adding Madness to the players, like to the active roster, would be nice because he is a very aggressive player, and that might add a little bit more confidence that the team currently lacks, it seems.
I'd like to say, just briefly as well, before we go over to the casters, VULGAR boys as well, a glow up. They're in like 6th or 7th place at the moment here, when I didn't really have many expectations of them. But anyway, Max, it is time. We've got our TDM ready before we move into our penultimate game of the day as well. So without further ado, let's give you over to Jackie and Blank.
Hey, Jackie and Blank, back together like a blanket, wrapping you up, getting you ready for the TDM special, Blank.
Absolutely, you'll need it as well because it does get a little bit cold and deadly within these lobbies. First up, though, we will be having a little bit more of the old bracket. Number 10 is coming through. Thank you, production. I appreciate you. It's getting a little bit crowded right now. VULGAR boys versus Dagestan. So VULGAR boys, who, as Clara said, have had their glow up, right? You know, they've got the new haircut. They're looking fancy. They're looking fresh. Versus Dagestan coming off the back of one smoky game. I am excited to watch this match. I think that potentially it could go either way. Though I'm feeling maybe a Dagestan on this one.
Yeah, I honestly, as much as like, you know, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a Foops man stan through and through. Like, I love a bit of Foops. This guy's cool. But Dagestan, they're just the team, aren't they? That are starting to get so much momentum behind them. And I really think they've just been delivering us some great momentum over the past couple of days. So what are their fragging power looking like, right? They've done good in terms of the battleground, you know, the real game of PUBG Mobile. They're being able to pull out all the stops, hit their shots. Now you just got to rinse and repeat that. Mechanically, will they be able to excel, or is that going to fall in favor of VULGAR? We'll find out. We're into it now. You know the rule set already in terms of the opening pick. That's going to fall in favor of VULGAR.
Zadira to drop a little bit of a stun grenade in there. Shifu gets extremely aggressive, but there's a 3-man hold on this side. Shots going through. It's 3-0 right now, so VULGAR seems to be pulling ahead just a little bit. Sort of expect Footsman to be getting all the eliminations here for VULGAR, but it's not the way it's going. Everyone's really working quite hard to get this one going. 4-0 right now. Surprising start to this game.
It is a bit. The Foops boys on the side of VULGAR really looking ferocious in the battlefield right now. Tresley also able to assist as he makes Limbo do a bit of limbo. Down to the ground, lower than he's ever gone before. Trade back from Zardia, ready for the crisscross on that one. But VULGAR really are just farming the frags early. The eliminations they're starting to post now are relatively uncontested. We're looking at an 8-3 split.
Yeah, it's slowed down just a bit now as Tresley kind of tries to get up to the front side. A bit too aggressive. Fuchs goes down. Dakimi sends something round. It's the pull-out from the side. Shoddy there will take him down. 10-7. Quickly goes back towards the favor side of Dagestan just a bit. Obviously 7, 4 limbs behind, but it was looking very dire just about 30 seconds ago. So luckily Dagestan's able to get a bit of a grip on this game.
If Fuchs Man was a professional basketball player, you could call him Hoops Man.
Yeah, because he's just hitting loops time and time again.
No, that's if he likes earrings. Loops Man.
Also, yeah, jewelry man at that point. But more loops, man.
It's got a rhyme, though. It's got a rhyme.
Yeah, I've kind of ruined it there. I apologize. That's my bad.
You know what they call him on Halloween? Spooks Man.
Spooks man.
Sorry, that's really tickled me. I love Fuchs, man. What a good player. Anyway, at the minute, he's just running away with the game, really. I mean, the game is at least getting somewhat close to blank. You know, this is an 11-10 split now. This was quite one-sided. Dagestan are standing up a bit. They're getting into the game now.
Trying to get back into it for sure. I mean, VULGAR not doing too badly. Still, Fuchs man hits him with another. He's crunching on him. You call him Fruits man. Like the cereal.
You probably could, yeah. Mate, it feels like, you know, you open up the box of cereal, you're shaking it, you're really hoping you get a toy, he just falls out, it's Foops, man. You're like, I've got myself a limited edition Foops, sir.
That's it. Literally, there is only one.
Yeah. Solid gold Foops, one in every 40 boxes, and I've got him. Just for me.
That's some good rates, bro. I'll give you that. That's a loot crate I would open.
Oh, yeah. Oh, all right. I tell you what, though, this game's been really opening up the longer it's been going on. You're looking at a 15-17 split. And for the first time, this is Dagestan now leading the charge. They hold the key to the magic Foops. They have the crystal 1-of-1 Foops, PSA graded 10, in their inventory right now with how they're playing this, because they're adding to this total tally. They've projected themselves all the way up to 19 now, almost halfway to our finish line.
Yeah, we're getting there slowly but surely. Nate goes through, tries to go for it, but he hits the deck. Call him Stoops, man, because he's on the floor. Shifu will go down afterwards. And Pilau still going for it. 21-18. It has gone back in the favor of Dagestan. Struggle.
Scared. Shenanigan. Other letters that start with S, but right now it's Ardia trying to do his very best as he sprays in, shuts people down. Tresley trading, standing tall like an oak tree as he's able to provide some sort of survivability for the squad here. The longevity of this one looking like it could really go the whole hog. You're at 22-23. There needs to be a resurgence from the Foop squad now. The main man's got to take charge once again.
He's got to get back in business because he's not done too much and he looks a little bit scared right now. Not able to get back into it how he'd like to. There is a nade around the corner, constantly trying to pressure this angle. And now 2 elimination lead has been led here when it did look so dire and drastic for Dagestan. Just shortly, Foopsman again hits the deck. Saddening.
It's not what you want. You need some help. It's crunch time, really, in the game. Clock quite far ticked. We're down to 4 minutes and 40 seconds left on this one. A lot of damage being done on the angle here as well. An exchange of nades. Sifu is able to keep himself alive and kicking and basically force them off this. So they rotate round. Want to link up as a 4-player unit, but it's Foops, man. Furious as ever as he swings to open it back up. A kill differential of 2.
Getting quite slow right now. Everyone's trying to keep it a bit quiet. Don't want to allow Dagestan to hold on to this lead for too long, which is why you can see the guys from VULGAR trying to get in on this. They want to open things back up again, but Dagestan's just holding them tight in the headlock.
Oh, gasping for oxygen at this point. 1-for-1 trade as plays being made. We see the exchange here. But still, the grand scheme of things is that Dagestan are looming 9 eliminations away from shutting down VULGAR boys in this TDM matchup now. We were all about Foops. We were all about the vulgarity that's been on display, but you can see at the minute Dagestan, they're a cut above. They prefer the refined things in life with how they're playing this one, sipping on the tea and dropping the Tetleys, running away with it seems.
Yeah, they just cannot get a lead here anymore. Let's go up the top side very low. Tresley just needs to get in there, hit one shot, but he gets the heal just a little bit. 4 eliminations remaining. I don't know if VULGAR boys can do it. Foops, man, looks to try and clean up one. Will find Limbo there. 32-36, but keeps getting some top side. I don't think they noticed him. These spawns are absolutely mad. 3 eliminations. This might be a Dagestan game.
Oh, they're running away with it. They just need one more. All they've got to do is hit the final nail into the coffin. There's at least a bit of bite back. The resilience on display from VULGAR as they keep it close. They only need 4 of their own. Game sitting on a knife's edge right now because you realize for Dagestan, they can't afford to let it slip, and they won't. They'll dash the nade, blow away the hopes and dreams. Foopsie daisies as they've lost that one.
I mean, they tried to go for it. VULGAR attempted to get in there. It's just not to be. We did not get the Deluxe, man, there in that game. It just wasn't up to par. And Dagestan will be going forward to face off against Gladiators in match 15. Match 11 tomorrow, match 12 after that. And then we're into those quarterfinals. I'm excited.
Yeah, looking spicy. It's kind of fun, actually, the way the TDM bracket's shaping up. There's some interesting games. Gladiators delivered last time. That's an intriguing one as well, right? The Foop show to begin with, but they go quiet in the end, like.
Yeah, I mean, he just couldn't carry them on his shoulders the whole time. He did not have the capacity, the carry capacity to take them all the way. It was close, though. I think you got to admit, it was very, very close.
One of the tight games we've had.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for one of the teams that we really did not put a lot of hope in the past, they have definitely really changed things up in the arena, on the battleground, in terms of how we need to look at them now. 6th place, 102 points, just behind Dagestan, in fact, 105. So certainly a possibility by the end of the day for VULGAR boys to get a few more points on card, get themselves towards a later finish. Again, just beautiful stuff.
And if that didn't get you excited for our 4th battleground of the day, then fundamentally I just don't know what will. That should have got you nice and ready for this one, because we're back on Erangel. Obviously our 4th game today. After this we'll have Miramar as our last opportunity for any of these teams to secure points going into day 4 after our midweek break with our 1 day off. And these are the past 2, these are the last 2 games really blank, where it feels like if we're going to see any of the squads that maybe haven't put their best foot forward today, squeeze out a few points, it has to start here. Erangel is a prime opportunity for some of those teams. In the back of my mind, you're thinking Titan, you've come close, but not really been able to topple anyone. This is another map they feel very comfortable on. We've seen good things from. Even VP at times, there's been some good plays here. For Nexus as well, actually, I'd even chalk them up to say some of their Erangel rotations have been looking a bit better over the past few days. So what are we going to be looking at when the dust settles? I think that's the big question for our 4th battleground after the midweek break.
Yeah, I think it's really important to finish strong. Finish strong at the end of the day for these squads, especially on day 1. You want to feel good coming into tomorrow. I think this is an important game for Titans as well, particularly because I think this is the first time in a while where we've actually seen them get a chicken dinner and then not have to sit out the next game. So they will be bringing some of that confidence into their next match here on Erangel. Horrible playing path into a horrible circle over towards the eastern side will open up a lot of rotational opportunities for a fair few teams in terms of getting ahead of the pack, ahead of the curve here, which is what you want to see. For Nexus, though, I think you're quite angry about this particular one, where you're not dropping in Milter Power. You don't have that easy rotational path into the circle itself. But I would go as far to say that actually I'm totally okay with that. I think Nexus plays quite well when they're able to drop on this side of the map. It changes how they look at the game, because I think a lot of times they get too bogged down over towards Milter Power. VIRTUS.PRO, though, team that is trying to get out of the bog themselves. The boogeyman comes through and PERMITTA.
Kind of a weirdly fitting title, actually, because sometimes it feels like PERMITTA just sort of, you know, they are like this dream-walking squad that creep in, and you're like, oh, and then they disappear for a bit. In this one, though, the dream's turning into more of a nightmare if you're a fan of VP, as they've been trampled, they've been trounced, and they've been taken out quite quickly, just splitting them right down the middle like a watermelon, because now you've only got 2 of the VP players left alive, miles away, so already you're down to half of the amount of VIRTUS.PRO players you'd like to be seeing.
Yeah, grim finish there for the guys on VIRTUS.PRO. Beck's left behind, giving himself the DP as well, so actually not a bad thing to go for. Titans will just swing by, and Beck's like, right, got to get out of there now. This is not worth it for me.
But I tell you what is worth it. The social media that we've been posting all over this shop. Doesn't matter what platform you want to see it on, we've got options for you. And as you can see, Maxman wants you to get on it. So head on over and stay up to date with all the latest and greatest about PUBG Mobile, because why wouldn't you, Blank? There's so much to be seen.
It's so worth it. Worth your time. There's not a lot of things that are worth your time, guys. I'm telling you, social media page is. All right, we respect your time. We really do.
We do indeed. You know, Max wouldn't post it if it wasn't high quality content. He's like an AI filter for PUBG related memes, and he kind of like either raises his left hand if it's okay, or his right hand if it's not good enough. And I've never seen him raise his left hand. I mean his right hand. His left hand's always up, is what I mean. It's always good quality content.
He's just surrendering to the content.
He's always scared.
Yeah, that's fair play. That's fair play. Bit of a rough start there for the guys over towards VIRTUS.PRO. Saddening for them. You know what always makes me laugh though, and if you guys can catch it again, is when Athis does get that first elimination, because when he pops up on screen looking like that, just it feels so bad-mannered. When he just drops it, he's like, yep. What's up?
About bad manners, man. That was like an indirect dig to Max. I've never been mean to Max on air. I feel bad. I feel off.
You're actually an evil person.
I know. I feel like a terrible human. He's just such a nice guy. It doesn't feel right.
No. I did that last week as well.
I know.
It really hurt my feelings.
It does, yeah.
It's a problem. I need him to be a bit more mean, essentially.
He's just too nice. He's the most polite human being. Even off air, I was saying to you, I was like, man, just listening to Max talk in the death segments just sounds like such a nice guy.
Yeah, it's just hard to hate him. And I've tried.
Comes across so friendly.
Yeah, it's a struggle. It's a struggle.
It is.
That's why we love Max. That's why you should definitely check out the social media. We're going to keep banging on about it until we see those numbers pump. They don't have to, but it would be nice if they did. Titans, though, heading all the way over towards the Povka. Really, really long rotation from them. They started over towards Very Pier. Kind of respect this rotation from them. I think a few times that we've seen Titans just get themselves stuck in towards a location and just basically bear it out. Like, right, well, this is our life now. Okay.
Ooh, oh no, oh no. Foopsie poopsie. He's been punched. Oh, he's been knifed. Oh, that's not very knife.
That's horrible. That's a horrible situation.
POV, you are a loaf of bread.
Oh, no. Sliced up.
Oh, God.
I mean, that is a horrible way to cut a piece of bread, though. I'll give you that.
Yeah, Rob's
I mean,
not talented in the kitchen.
No,
Good at PUBG, though.
very good at PUBG, but you will get a strange pentagram shape of a bread piece.
Everyone at the team house for Titan just go, Robs, you finished making breakfast? Old boys there like, what is this?
That is a strange shape that I've never seen before.
What do you mean? You've never had hexagon bread?
This is horrible. I mean, I would have gone for like the seven-sided shape, but I don't know what that's called because my math is horrible. You know, Rob's got to keep
a blank long.
Blank long. Yeah.
Blank long.
Yeah, we'll just name it ourselves. Yeah. That's fine.
Well, that's what all the scientists did, you know? They discovered penguins. They're like, you look like a penguin.
You good to go?
Yeah, there you go, sorted.
I like to be that type of guy. Actually, I am type of guy. We did Gunbay earlier. We invented something.
Yeah. We're like scientists, you know? Yeah.
Pioneers.
Creating. Future sailors, mate.
Absolutely. It's got to be done. I want to jump in on that, but I cannot. Because we do have some sailors of our own in the lobby. VULGAR jumping over towards the boat itself. Takimi setting up towards Kameshki. to link up with Pylaus. That team has been decimated by Titans. I mean, it was a pretty aggressive push coming through from Robs as well. Definitely a Robs play. I don't know how well that would have worked versus other teams, but I think that you can make the assumption if you're rocking up with a shotgun, it's that late into the rotate as well. If they're also there on that playing path, they've got to have horrible loot. 9 times out of 10 for shotgun, you're going to win that engagement.
You know what I like as well is it feels like Robs, he was actually a little bit more, I don't know if it's confidence or what it was, but he seemed a lot slower in the way that he would take, you know, aggressive peaks, the way he'd opt to play the game, because he is really good at like clutch PUBG mobile. He's kind of the guy that you would want in like a 1v2, 1v3, where he's got to be on his belly and try and make late round plays to try and clutch stuff out in the final circle. He thrives in that, but he's also pretty damn good when you send him in and let him get stuck into a scrap. And the fact that he's sort of taken like the old boy approach of, on occasion, I am going to fight and you will follow me, I don't mind it. It kind of works, especially where like the rest of the team is now sort of subscribing to the idea, all right, if old boy's going in, we go in. If Robs is going in, we go in. Yeah. It just seems like it's starting to work. You know, there's a fire lit under them, which I prefer. It's good to see.
They've got like one-word comms, really. And I mean like a one-word comm, which is just push. That's all you need, though, at the end of the day. You only need that phrase. Everything else could be just done on the fly, which is fine. So everyone just goes back. Oh, dear me. I like that we were just on the same that one. Yeah,
mate, we've been reading, we've been seeing the team comms from Titan. Yeah.
We're locked in. It's not very interesting, but yeah, we know what they are saying.
I do like the idea, like even when someone's knocked, it's just silence and then push. Old boy's going in. I've got it, boys.
It's a horrible dilemma for them. I mean, even with Robs, I think it's a horrible dilemma as well, because you summed it up very well in the sense that he is sort of that guy that you'd like to have in that late game, but he's also the guy that you want to just toss in like with the Pokeball and get him fighting.
Yeah, bro. It's like a double-edged sword, right? Because it's one of those where it's like, do we squirrel him away and hope that we make it to a situation where he can be pivotal late game, or do we let him kind of scrap a bit early, try and get the elim points back and get the blood pumping? Because I think that's another thing. It looks like Titan, you know, they go from strength to strength quite easily if they're getting elims. If they're having a quiet game, it feels like it is just that, a quiet game.
Yeah. I guess it's nice in the same way. He's got 2 moves. He's got 2 moves. That's great. A lot of teams.
Growl.
Yeah. That's all you need. Bide. Bide would be the one I'd go.
Probably also pretty good Leaf Blade.
Yeah. Perfect. Brilliant. We've locked in on everything there is to know about Titans.
Yeah, you're
probably not what you wanted to know, but it's all you need to know.
Can't delete it from your brain now. It's too late. This is good though, actually. This kind of sets us up for a nice, conjunction into talking about. Hello, Rogo. He's trying to get the team warmed up a little bit, but it's a bit of love tapping coming out. But Alpha on our screens here. Alpha again have been looking pretty damn good. And maybe we'll get an opportunity to see that. For now though, control of the tower is being fought for by KASIK team. Not much of them left after they've been dropped on by Dark Project. Trofka though, we've been saying how sick this guy's been looking recently. And again here, laser beams his way through them. They've also got elevated angles to peek from with hill control. Oh, Dark Project are probably in for a world of hurt now.
Yeah, Skills is coming in. English tries to get on the outside. Closet's got nothing left on him, just the shotgun, the pump action. But yeah, Trofka, what a player and a half that guy is. I think that he's really made a name for himself here in the fall split. Like for PMPL EU, as a newcomer, or at least a player that we've not really spoken too much about in the past, Trofka certainly is that standout member of any team within this lobby. Maybe him and Foobs, man. I'll give him that. Look at the circle, though. We really do need to hone on this because we're getting to stage 2. You know, we're moving through to stage 3 as well. It has centered up down towards the south side of Yasnaya. It is a difficult position to play. A lot of tree lines over towards the eastern side. You've got the crates over towards the east as well that you could potentially play in, but it's very much out of the way, so you don't necessarily want to go for that right now. And north of prison, too. So you've got this very much low ground down towards the south. So I think that most teams will want to try and set themselves up over towards this western edge, try and pick up some of these buildings buildings towards the center side, and then just try and play the dips on the northeast side. It's actually kind of unfortunate for all these teams like VULGAR, Shockwave, NEXUS, TUNA, Titan, because they all made the smart move, right, which is to make the long rotate over towards the east side of the map. You know the playing path was over towards the west, try and circumvent a lot of these teams. Gladiators decide that, you know what, everyone's going to do that anyway. Let's just do the opposite approach, and we'll just go where everyone assumes will be. And by that, now they've got a 4-man split over a huge amount of terrain. It's kind of ridiculous.
It is a bit. It is a bit.
They've been outsmarted by not outsmarting anyone.
Yeah, it just kind of, you know, everything's sort of fallen into place somehow miraculously. But
yeah,
you roll with it. You'll be happy with what you've got here. I did wonder if there was going to be an instigation of a fight here, maybe from Dakami. He was just behind the vehicle, obviously not really a great spot to be in. You know, you're one of the 2 players that are still alive for VULGAR at this point. He sees the drive-by and gets contact onto Shockwave, but knows it's probably not worth instigating the fight. You'd probably just kill one, maybe, if you're lucky, and then they're going to trade, so not really worth it. We saw this set up a little while ago, where PERMITTA pushed into the compound quite some time ago now. They've just been fishing for info. Aphis has done this a few times, where he runs out onto the roof, then goes back inside, just seeing if there is any information or a potential peek that will come out from one of the windows from Alpha. The only thing that could bode well for them is just the levels of verticality they have split between the 3 different buildings. If you peek onto them, it's one angle, whereas they're going to be peeking you from 3 different points, so it might make it a bit uncomfortable to take those fights for PERMITTA.
It's probably the place that I hate assaulting the most is over towards Mansion and that 3-story towards the center, because you saw how many windows were on it, right? I think you mentioned it too, is the fact that they could be peeking from any one of those windows. I've dropped in, I've taken out teams before, and you know, you just don't know how many players are in those buildings. A lot of times it can be even more than you might expect. We do head over towards this northwest side though, and Heaven's in play. MADBULLS currently got it, and it's direct center. This is a wonderful place to hit up. Very difficult to get up towards it. Very easy to take shots at teams that are going towards that position as well. So MADBULLS are fairly safe this game, with a really, really good outpost to play this out from.
Bodes well, man. It's a good spot for him to be in. Already again today, you know, MADBULLS, we've been seeing and starting to show that, you know, the fires are there. They're looking strong. They've been getting their squats in each day because they can hold on to some of these positions. They've got longevity in them now, which is what we wanted to see, but they're also making a good job of instigating fights when necessary. This is one I didn't expect, though. Titan actually fighting against PERMITTA. They've been locked in place for so long, but now they're duking it out amongst one another. Aphis cleans up on the close quarters engagement, spraying his way through them. He's dropping the peace signs, and it will be peace to Titan, it seems, unless old boy can make the hero maneuver. He's downstairs, spotted on the third-person peek by Temp, tries to clear it with the shot. He dives around the corner, baiting him out. A bit of a block on his teammate with Icy coming through, so Xsheepa's nade might be the final pin on this one. But actually, if he can get it back up, you're looking at 2 isolated duos with Alpha pushing in to clean up. This is like worst case scenario for this fight blank. PERMITTA probably hating their lives right now.
Yeah, it's a really awkward position. Icy does go down to the nade. Old boy left remaining. He's got a tall task ahead of him, but this guy is a big man. Maybe he can clamber over the top of it. In the meantime, NEXUS are getting shredded by Shockwave. Shockwave actually have had a good day today. I've actually been fairly impressed with some of the plays they've been making. Yeah, not getting towards the late game, but some of their fights have been absolutely phenomenal. They are sort of targeting the Nameless a little bit.
If it works, it works. And right now, it's kind of giving them something to project themselves further up with. It's No Mercy Warriors that finish off the Nameless for good, with Madagod going down to Marlow so cleanly. We showed it to you a couple of times just to get you in the right mindset for how this game's starting to go. I'm surprised this has resulted in a stalemate as well. This is, you know, PERMITTA that had building control for so long, crashed down onto Titan, thought that they were going to run away with things. Instead, it's just been Old Boy now nipping at their heels. Alpha even gave up the goods on it. They lost some of the players they invested into cleaning up, so just went, you know what, not worth it. And Old Boy hits the mark. He's blown Aphis off his feet. He's forced this into a 1v1. How is Old Boy so good at just being annoying?
That is upsetting. If you actually got that up top side, and the res is going to go through before you can get the full prime on the nade. He's have to be really quick with this one. Get it through the backside. Does pick up Athis. Doesn't do a lot of damage towards Temp. No threat on the res. I mean, Alpha does give up the chase on that one, and it's fair play to them. Like you said, they lose a couple of their players invested into it, but it will have to be Old Boy from Titan as well as PERMITTA pushing into them just where the circle lies. It's very hard not to predict anyone else other than MADBULLS at this point, playing towards this position of how good they've been today.
Well, it seems like Old Boy's finally expired as he's taken down. Whilst we switch over to the POV of the Gladiators roaming around in the big wheels. So that's actually Xjipa initiating the fight now as well. So Alpha have committed onto that one, wanting to clear out the remaining players off the back of the fall of Old Boy, and with Temp expiring there in the Elim feed, it seems like that's PERMITTA finally gone on this one. So they're finished off with Alpha being the squad to survive out of the three of them.
I mean, for Alpha, it was always going to happen. I mean, we talked about how strong that building is over towards Mansion in terms of like just being able to peek from any angle. Very difficult to isolate. They're looking to get vehicles. I think they picked up a little bit of loot as well because they know they'll need those smokes in the late game just to get over towards this area of the map. You can see already we're down to 9 teams in Stage 5. Most of them on the outside edge as well, because the further you get towards the center side of the map, the more you realize there's hardly any positions to play. No Missy Warriors, watch me. Staying alive here. GG, not GG, gets in there. And we'll drop him for a BG there. Wobbly has a nade. That could be massive if he throws it just right.
Just got to get the placement perfect on it. He could still save their bacon, but the timing of it is absolutely awful, with SBG pulling up to the party and bonneting their way through them. The issue is there's been no chance to reset the fight for Shockwave, so they're eating so many bullets quite quickly, and the numbers are being thinned. Down on their last legs now, the Snowix will clean up. From what felt like they were in a great position, they've evaporated in seconds.
Yes. Really, really quite upsetting. I mean, SPG could have got in on this northeast side quite easily. It started to push down, maybe play around some of this high ground. Oh, Claris is copying me, obviously. You know. I came in with this prediction at least 2 hours ago. But yeah, Gladiators are actually in a nice spot over here. And it realistically only occurs because of the circle shift. If this shifted over towards Heaven and this is where we were going to finish, yeah, the game becomes so much harder. But the fact that they've got control over this western edge, they have so much space to play around with. Meku has to be extra careful, though, of Alpha. If he drops to one of those players, then it's going to be all over for them. But a great pickup from Tixi, as well as Kitsune on the side. We'll remove those Alpha players, and then they can just play the roadside. This is shaping up to be a Gladiators game, potentially. We talked about how they can't drop too many more points here, Jackie.
This has got to be a game where they grab on with both hands. Look at the difference in terms of the battle of attrition, right? You are one of the only 2 squads that has all 4 of your players alive and kicking. Use all of that advantage to your benefit and see how far you can project yourselves in this one. MADBULLS, they're going to be needing to clash back as well. They also want to keep their huge day going. Can't afford to let it fall through the fingertips here. And just maintain some of the pace that they've been showing us. But still, the solos and duos that you have left to contend with, they're nothing to turn your nose up at. Snowix, probably one of the players that can be so annoying, especially with a well-placed nade. If that would have taken down Zerich, could have been a lot more to be said about that one.
Yeah, I mean, that could have been a massive nade. It's a great jump out here from Snowix to the side. Get away from that nade coming through, but he's going to delay massively. Kitsune should have information over towards this. Meku does get taken down there by Becker. We'll have to back off. Fleek as well as Frozen will head down. Now, Claris talked about the clutch capability from the MADBULLS, and it really is the major factor for this team. Fleek as well as Frozen will provide themselves an anchoring point for the rest of the team. Tixi is just going to identify that, whilst Matic picks Meku back up again to get him back in the engagement. A couple of nades here. Not a huge amount of utility on side. Does spot the players, though. We'll just back off slightly. MADBULLS just keep throwing for loops here, Jackie.
Oh, mate. It's the reposition on it. Like, Tixi's just big-brained them, trying to go for the flank, thinking that he can set up like a time bomb, just start getting the nades out. And they're gone. They instantly hop back in the driving seat, breeze away. MADBULLS just playing with a level of confidence right now that bodes really well for them. For what remains of KONINA power as well, just one man, just Becker, just trapped, basically. Look at them. The MADBULLS really are like hyenas right now, just getting an idea of the lay of the land, scoping out where everyone is, but not committing to any of the fights.
Yeah, I think if you're Gladiators and you're looking at what's happening here, you're getting a little bit nervous, right? The sweat is starting to bead on the forehead just because when you come up against a team like that and Tixie notices the way they're moving, the way they're just sidling around this side of the map, you're like, right, this is a pretty tough team to go up against. I think we can be fairly confident this is probably MADBULLS that we are heading off against right now. Also, because they're not moving as a full-man pack, then you potentially have the situation where you think it's two separate teams, but that's some good shots coming through from Kitsune. Hits the other one. That was potentially a res in the making if he didn't hit that last shot. So fantastic news for Kitsune there with the Mini 14.
Yeah, the double tap on that is the difference between a potential reset where Gladiators just slow it down a bit and then still come back into the forefront of things versus it now meaning that, you know, the lives of MADBULLS are so much harder because you've lost one of those star fraggers as well. So great play on the Mini 14, good way to initiate the fight. And for Gladiators, you can kind of just carry on with the same level of pace then. You know that you've got the ball in your court, basically. You've got more trade potential because you just have a higher count in terms of the players still alive to work with. And they've got ammunition and utility, so they're not really worrying too much about forcing the issue early. Meanwhile, for MADBULLS, now it gets a bit harder. You're fragmented, but you're forced to play like this to scout out a bit. Ooh. They're lucky that Tulika at least hits a hefty shot. Downs one, so this could be where they opt to try and instigate a big fight.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's now or never, right? Because this is a 3v3. Frozen tries to get behind. Will hit the compound as well. This is bad news, and they're just running them down. They should be able to get Meku back up again, but they need a knock, and they need it now, and Gladiators are falling apart at the seams, Jackie.
This is outrageous. They went from playing it fantastically and taking cheeky peeks to hit really clean shots to just being run over. The cars have been bonneting everyone, and Gladiators, they're just being torn in half. They look like a phone book that's been ripped up by a strong man, as it's just Tixie that's still standing, eating bullets, puts some downrange, connects onto Becca, does finish off one, but now you're trapped. You're basically just having to singly deal with everyone, and this is not looking good at all. MADBULLS, how on earth have they got such a commanding position in this game?
They just gave up that compound. They didn't think it was as strong as it was. It became a big distracting factor, even though it wasn't inside the circle. They had to look over towards it. When that came through, there was just a drive through. And you saw exactly what Gladiators were doing, which was playing down towards this fielded edge on the south side. And that's purely essentially to stop that from happening, to stop these players from being able to swing round behind you. And MADBULLS, they use that distraction coming through from Frozen God to just open things up. And now Gladiators, it's Tixie in the fight of his life here to attempt to find himself the 1v3. But the MG3 coming through from Fleeke, that's going to do him in.
Just putting bullets down range, looking to finish this one off for good. Tixie, positionally, he's been able to keep himself out of trouble and has an angle to work with. He's looking to isolate these fights. It would have to be so clean. He can afford to take no damage in these engagements, basically. That's the lines being fluffed, though. Yeah, the chip damage was nice, but now being able to build from it is nigh on impossible, and MADBULLS realize this. They strike back, and in the end, they walk away with the chicken dinner. And that's great. The sustainability of their gameplay on true display there, Blank. They go down with one man early, fighting with three, but made it look fantastic.
It realistically should not have happened like that. Again, it just speaks to the mentality through on the side of Gladiators. They're feeling nervous right now. They know they need to pick up some more points. And as soon as Frozen God makes that play, it kind of sets a lot of things in motion where suddenly it's panic mode for the guys on Gladiators. They're not sure what they should do. Instantly, MADBULLS, even with the 3 players they're rocking with, 2 players come around the side, get the instant knocks in the vehicles. And again, we come back to what we were talking about before. The Kalaris mentioned is that clutch capability coming from MADBULLS in those high pressure moments.
Well, that's what we saw, and that's what we'll start to break down and talk about, because it was chock-a-block with madness from MADBULLS, man. Like, they just look so damn good with the way they were playing it. It's just really impressive as well, though, like the sustainability from them that we're starting to see from how it almost they had kind of fluffed it, right? You lose one of the big impact fraggers with Zerich, had me scratching my head, and then they just start running people over, and it all changes. So let's have a look and start to talk about the game we just saw. Let's get back to the desk.
And what an unbelievable play that was here by MADBULLS. I said it the last day we were on live here, Max, that the level of play we're seeing here in PMPL EU is leveling up and getting really, really high. This was insane by MADBULLS, identifying exactly when they kind of spread out and knowing exactly how to exploit that, Max. That was awesome. Yeah.
I was muted. I am back. So yeah, what I was saying about the MADBULLS is that they give them an inch and they're going to take a mile. And here they very easily understood the weakness of Gladiator's position, understanding that the West, they're so spread, they can try and abuse it. There's, of course, like little minute details we can jump on after focusing on MADBULLS, but really strong display of what they could do. And also leaving Heavens, which I think you stated in that game, right, Kalaris, that is not an easy position to leave. And they made sure to clear all of the teams behind them before transitioning away to facilitate that movement. So every step of this game has been so strong for MADBULLS, and once again showing why they are one of the most aggressive and consistent teams in this lobby.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for the most part, when you get in those situations, and even in the circle that popped after it as well, which centered on the road, normally you would have stalemate scenario, where both teams are using the slight dip on either side of the road and just kind of either crawling or trying to jostle for position slowly. MADBULLS was having none of it, which was awesome to watch. Just absolutely understood exactly how to exploit the split and was able to completely smash across the road. I love it because I'm trying to think of any other team that might make that play right now here in PMPL EU Fall, and I can't think of one. I think only MADBULLS would have been able to identify how to exploit that split as effectively as they did. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Major Pride doing a play like that. MUERTE, no. Maybe Gladiators, but they're the one that we're going up against. But like, yeah, MADBULLS are just a team that currently are, I mean, as you would say, right, the whole package. You have entry level threat. Like, they are the team currently to beat in this tournament. And the very important moment of this game was when Meku was knocked, because you said it during that game, they were very split. That was the weakness. They were very split. If MADBULLS were aware of that, that was going to be the weakness they were going to try and abuse in their favor. So Meku gets knocked. Tixi sends it to go for the res, and of course when you get in the res, only 2 players are still up against you. So they just send it, roll them over. Flicky gets the opening knock right away. Like, what a play for MADBULLS. This was one of my favorite games of the tournament by far.
Yeah, it's funny because I said that maybe 2 or 3 times whilst we were, you weren't here as well. The games just keep getting better, man. As it also keeps getting better for Shockwave up at the north side of things. I mean, they were having I think they were always going to have a hard time getting into this circle, but they were able to pump out a lot of eliminations. Shockwave keeps getting early elims. They just need to then convert that towards getting to those higher placements.
And then Jackie predicts them, and they just die instantly. So I don't know. I'm not pointing fingers, but
not
Jackie,
VP.
Yeah, no. But yeah, they are really good at taking fights, clearly. The main issue is that sometimes their fights tend to linger a little bit too long when they could try and just end them a little bit quicker. And because of that SPG third party, MADBULLS third party, it makes it a bit tough. But now look at that, 9 elims on the game, looking still absolutely banging here.
Yeah, at the same time, when you look at Shockwave's numbers here, though, I kind of understand why you would just stick around and try and take those fights in general anyway, right? Like, thinking about the middle of that circle and how much terrain there is there, and if you were to try and send it in, you're probably going to get eliminated before you even do any damage or get any more elims on the board, right? So just, if you know that you can't get to the middle of this circle, just go for the elims that are on your side, try and get as many as possible, and that is absolutely fine for the position that Shockwave is in my mind, as we take a look at the highlights.
Yeah, some nice highlights happening here. Actually, we're going to see one fight that I thought was really interesting inside of Mansion. It should come up eventually. It was like in the mid-game stage. Yeah, that weird standoff between, I think it was PERMITTA versus Titan on the side of Mansion, southeast side of Mansion. And Alpha Team, again, slowly becoming a team that I feel like is truly a dark horse in this tournament, Kalaris, that can really top the table sometimes. They are just not idle on the side. They're just actively thinking, okay, this fight you're looking at right now, PERMITTA versus Titan, isn't folding. Yeah. Fully send it in, and because you've done that, you can easily leave Mansion later on down the line, because this fight, these 2 teams will not be a threat in the future. So I really appreciate what has been happening for Alpha Team these days. Yeah,
it's a similar situation to the, again, find as many eliminations as possible if you can't get to this towards the center of a circle, right? Like, Alpha Team, we have seen them multiple times in the past actually rock up as third parties on these compounds and actually be very successful. Do they then follow it through to be able to get themselves a win on the board? No. not often, but at least they're getting themselves some limbs and keeping themselves in what looks like those top 8 positions right now. So that's enough to get you towards that Livic and then get you into the finals, get things going as we take a look at these final moments. And Tixi, I will say, as a bold play, a bold counter play, I don't mind that Tixi went over across the other side of the road, knowing that the rest of his team was split up and he wasn't going to be able to save them, but it was ambitious and you had to try something, I suppose. It
actually worked out really good for him to do that, because the fact that he went over the side of the road in the position he was at, he spotted out Becca and secured a 2nd place. So he didn't know, of course, that Becca was there at the time. I'm pretty sure he was already focused on MADBULLS, but it did actually bring up a few extra points for the side of Gladiators, which is good to have. But clearly they were just so desperate to just try and make something work, but against MADBULLS, they were moving as a pack when you're so split. You can't do anything as a solo, so he just tried to, like, salvage a play, which is what they're known for, and at least got a 2nd place on the back of that.
Yeah, let's take a look at the overalls as we continue talking about this. I think one thing that makes it even more impressive for MADBULLS is the fact that Gladiators had the roof of the compound as well. So that actually provides a great little overlook against what might be coming your way, but still wasn't able to be victorious in their defense. But MADBULLS takes #1 spot off Major Pride here, 160 points to their name. And between Major Pride and MADBULLS, they've won half of the chicken dinners in this phase, Max.
We said it's top heavy, right? It's clearly just the MADBULLS Major Pride show. Gladiators still not on this page. I mean, they really wanted that win, right? For when it comes to PMGC, they wanted to secure themselves that chicken dinner. It was not meant to be, and another one goes the way of MADBULLS. The sponge effect is in true effect, it seems, this entire tournament so far, and though looking on the 2nd page, Gladiators still shy of making it back up there. But though Shockwave has been slowly climbing up, and because of the eliminations they've been able to acquire, I mean, 48 eliminations to 15 placement points, that's a big elimination ratio here, I think it's fair to say, Kalaris. They are in a position where they could start to climb throughout maybe the end of today and the next 2 days. So at least they are in a position where they can be a threat to the teams in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, I mean, they keep looking really good in those early engagements, those hot drop scenarios where they do win things out 4-0. But anyway, it is time as we have our final game of the day. Let's head over to the commentators, Jackie and Blank, for all the action.
All right, last game of the day here. It's been a great way to kick off the 2nd half of the week, I think. Blank, we've had some tasty affairs, and we get to wrap it up in a neat package on the end of Miramar.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, it's been a pretty good day today. I think we've done a lot of chatting about teams, honestly, as well, because there is a lot of interesting storylines. It's difficult to keep track of everything that's going on, and that's fair play. There's some definitely big teams out there, and it's nice to be able to have those conversations too, considering, you know, MADBULLS as well as Major Pride have just been so impressive at the moment, yet there are still more teams that we want to chat about all the time. Titans were able to take themselves up to 3rd place, maintain that at 125 points. MADBULLS will be playing in this final match of the day on Miramar, which is where they find a lot of their success as well. But Major Pride will have their 16th match here in phase 2. They're only 5 points behind MADBULLS with 160 points to their 135. So they might just be able to leapfrog if they have themselves a decent game.
Some interesting storylines then, I suppose, with the teams that we have sitting out coming onto this one of Miramar to round out the day. It's nice as well, you know, like you're saying, we've had a little bit more time today, I suppose, in a few of the early game openers where there haven't been as many chaotic sort of fights, that we've been able to just kind of give our thoughts and feelings on this past week, because there's been a lot that I think potentially, you know, we were kind of setting up that just sort of got blown out the water and has presented us with so many new takes of teams that look completely invigorated, teams like are still changing up their roster on, you know, a play day basis, but looking like there has been stalwart improvements. You know, we're thinking sort of Major Pride, NEXUS in that sense, where on occasion we're seeing fielding of some of the players that just haven't been there. It's interesting, it really is. But we'll get back into that, then we'll touch on what we're seeing when the business is sent our way. But like we said, this is it, final battleground of the night here on Miramar as we start to get our people deploying, and we get the zone for this one.
Yeah, very much an Eastern's playing path as well to a Western circle makes things a little bit tough for a lot of these teams. So MUERTE want to head up towards Montenuevo, which is dead central, but they have a couple of players behind that are just lagging a little bit. Malloy steals away a vehicle that Old Boy most likely would have taken. And again, Titans are on this split over towards the eastern side. I think this is a little bit more of a dangerous split right now and something that you might want to consider regrouping as quick as possible, purely because there's going to be so many teams dropping out here that don't usually drop in this location. I'm looking at Gladiators down towards that south side of Los Leones, just underneath Dagestan. Another team that might want to get involved. The Nameless drops on top of Dark Project. The Nameless just seem to be getting involved in a lot of engagements recently in positions where they're not necessarily allowed to be in, considering the teams around them, but they managed to get away in the party bus. They do knock up towards the ridge, but it's Aces who comes up front here with the Tommy gun, taking things a little bit carefully, but these lads have got nothing on them right now.
Bone dry. Need to scavenge something to arm themselves here. Depends on the timing of it all, really. Dark Project, belly down to the ground, trying to get an angle to peek onto this one. Basically just the one man. His teammates are rotating over somewhat, but there's a bit of space in between them. They've also got the high ground. If they can set themselves up on top of the ridge, Mango, peeking on the corner from the windowsill, has at least got info from this. If he commits to the peak and fires off any shots, though, that's when you get the swing from this angle, up close and personal. If there's a line of sight to peek the bedroom window, it could be a nightmare, but Mango actually just fully repositions down towards the van. He's skimming the little line, but isn't actually getting the contact he would need against Dark Project. It's an interesting one. Bit of timing could go their way. Maybe Dark Project kick off a fight here.
Yeah, I think for Aces, it's a bit of a difficult scenario for him because time's not with him right now. Considering he's not been able to loot at all, he just got through, had the Tommy gun, had the AKM, he had a helmet, first guy to face, closest to them. In the meantime, the Nameless is going to loot more and more and more, get stims on board, get some bandages going, so they'll be like full HP. So Aces' window to actually get something done is just absolutely minimizing, in which case he just sends away from it. But Kespo will find the shot. And in fact, the driving away opens things up for Aces, which must be quite frustrating, I'd say.
Probably a little bit annoyed by how things have gone here. But the slow, conscious game of holding the angle eventually does pay off for Aces. And this is all really Dark Project wanted from this, just to try and overwhelm and force them out. Even if you do only get one or two from it and don't clean up the whole squad, if you can get away contently with all four of you alive and no room for that trade back onto Aces, you're still going to be relatively happy with the fight. MADBULLS trying his best, peeking from the elevated angle, but the rest of the team's doubled back. Maybe there was a chance for Espo in terms of the angle he was playing here, if MADBULLS would have hard committed to the peak, but they bail out on it, back in the vehicles, content with one.
Yeah, either way, like you said, one elimination, that's going to leave those guys feeling a little bit nervous, a little bit hesitant to push up towards that north side without feeling a bit too scared of actually meeting back up with this team. So Dark Project, that's a good start from them. And Aces really does open that up. Yeah, he doesn't get the swing over towards one of the windows, but him driving away definitely allows Kespo to find those shots. And good shots from Kespo as well at the end of the day. Not a team you want to come up against though, Jackie. His major pride.
No, probably not. If you could avoid having to go up with the Kings of the Jungle early, you'd probably try to. At the minute, it's just the drive-by. They kind of vaguely encroach into their territory, see a few bullets shot their way, and opt to go for the slightly longer route together on their rotation. But this is scary. Look at the sort of grouping that we're bubbling up towards here. Kazakh team near Major Pride. Everyone else is close by as well. You've got four sort of big-name squads that could potentially run into each other here. So next couple of minutes could have some interesting developments.
Yeah, it's the type of thing where you just get this line over towards Power Grid and down towards that southwest side. We're just going to get more and more teams almost forcing this wall out towards the southeast side of the map. So any team coming from Los Leones, Graveyard, swinging past Picado is just going to run directly into this barricade. So I think that heading towards that location is just going to be like heading directly face first towards spiked fence, which is not what you want. Maybe a hard wrap over towards that northern side. Jackie could be good. I think TUNA already went for something like that, as did VP up towards Torre Armada and Campo Militar.
Oh boy. Sniping away best he can. Was hoping that he would deliver some deathly blows onto Alpha that were in the midst of a rotate. But unfortunately, no clean connection from those bad boys. So it's just the information exchange between either squad in terms of location, and they get out of dodge as quick as possible. Going for a mass migration on this one, it seems, clearing an awful lot of space in a short period of time. Bit of bouncing going on with the bike, but he can recover from that. We tune into SPG's POV here, though, as they're rotating past PERMITTA. Afis, he's on screens here. He was buying his time for this one. Opts to actually engage, trailing behind with the bullets. Victor, realizing that he's being spammed at, wants to get behind the back of the hill and give himself an extra bit of map geometry to block these bullets. Here comes Narvalo and co, and they opt to bail into the fight, jumping out the vehicle and looking for the scrap. Close quarters with the shotty, hits the first, jumps over the top. Heavy tag, finally commits as Afis goes down.
Yeah, locked in that location nice and early. Saw that it was just a solo with the DBS up close and personal like that, and now Valo behind it. Likely that he's going to take that elimination on his hands, and now Snowik's on the high ground. Sneaks is going to be really, really hard pressed to find these shots. It's a tough time ahead for PERMITTA. And SPG comfortably wrap that one up, which is not something we've seen in quite a while. So I like the decision-making coming through from SPG. Felt like there was a little bit more of a plan that went behind it, as opposed to what usually happens from SPGs. They'll get into an engagement, and then it's slightly confused at the start, a bit muddled, but it looked a lot clearer this time.
You could see the comms already occurring on that rotate, right? Like, as soon as they got shot at, they were piecing it together in terms of how they wanted to play it, and it looked clean. So, good fact for them. You stay alive, you can reset. Actually, it's commanded you an awful lot of respect in terms of the zone off the back of the move as well. That's a pretty central location they have with actual map geometry giving them some cover in terms of the compound they've secured. So that'll give you a bit more of a backbone in terms of the rotate you're going to have to deal with either TUNA or VP coming down from San Martin. Could be something to look at here for SPG a little bit later. They're going to opt to start to advance slightly further forward, though, contest for something a bit stronger, and that will be towards that central area where MUERTE have already pushed down. So, okay, you got MUERTE, Titan, Dagestan, everyone on the roads that are going to be bumping into one another quite soon.
Yeah, everyone wants to head up towards this valley side Ladriera. Luckily for them, there is quite a few different roads you can take, but everyone's opting for the hard western side, and fair play to them as well. You don't really want to get caught up between the valleys in Ladriera itself. Icy, though, hit some shots over towards Tenchik. Doesn't want to press his luck too much because Gladiators, they're down towards that southeast side as well, taking some good shots. First time in a while we've seen them really step up on that last game, and to be quite frank, I think that, look, they did get that second place, and it could have been a win off the back of it. But I would say that's a really strong game coming through from Gladiators. I love the way they played it out. Their split was phenomenal. It's very difficult to win, though, versus a team that just makes an unbelievable play like that. Like, that is PMGC Grand Champion levels of play coming through from MADBULLS in a 3v4. That doesn't happen very often. So I think for Gladiators, that looks much better than it actually was.
No, of course. It's one of those where, you know, when you take all the context into it, it definitely shows just how influential it actually was. Looking pretty good so far for the Gladiators, though, at the minute, as they're clearing out the hillside, taking fights when necessary. Deal with the first man that tries to blockade their path. Icy, on the move up. He's kept his nose clean. Backed up by his teammates as well. They've stayed out of trouble here in terms of being spotted by the players that are right above them. That's PERMITTA that have got the hillside control. So Titan look to try and dispatch if they can get up there unchecked. MUERTE having a bit of fun here in terms of their movement as they keep the vehicles in circulation. Temp had the pin pulled. It seems like he's got a read on it. You can see with the body language, he's heard some of the footsteps, knows that he's being pushed. Rogo takes contact on the sideline. Icy's low, eats the nade from Temp. That's a good follow-up.
Yeah, and we'll just drop down after him. Robs is not there to help him out. Should just go for the flush immediately. Temp will find it. It's such a horrible position because you have to wrap all the way around the right-hand side here to actually get up to where PERMITTA is currently playing, or have a buggy in tow to just send it up top side. So for Titan Game, this is sort of a I want to say a desperate play. I think it's decent where you are, but you need to hit those shots. You need to fully clear out the area around you so you can lock in to almost this case of neighborhood gameplay where you're alongside another team. But Rogo, he takes a really strong spot. I really like this from him. You know, he's on the side. He's able to take pot shots at any teams that get a little bit too close to them. Gladiators, though, rocking up. He is a solo and will have to get to cover fairly quickly.
Got to get yourself somewhere safe. He's just trying to play around the ridge right now, make it uncomfortable for Tixi in the vehicle, so he would kind of be left halfway committing if he wants to go for it. Robs with the timing as well, might have an opportunity to potentially try and get a line of sight on this one, see if he can peek around the corner and hit a pot shot on the timing. Tixi's really just all in on the idea of baiting him over the ridge. He wants him to come over, and then you'll have a better line of sight to fight this one. Otherwise, it's just about him bobbling up and hoping Tixi overcommits so he can win the fight. He knows he's just being baited, so won't commit to it, doubles back a little.
Yeah, and Tixi goes extremely low. I think that's some spray coming through from SPG. We'll have to return to the rest of his squad. Rogo could have just had himself an easy elimination on the hands there. Gladiators are getting peppered, though. A little bit of damage, tickled away. Matic also fairly low, and I think Gladiators realize that at this point in time, stage 3, the circle's starting to push in. There's more and more teams that are moving over towards this area. Right now, they have a strong position over on the western edge of Power Grid. This is a nice bit of higher ground. Will look down to a lot of teams. You have to get up close and personal if you want to aggress over towards them. So I think Gladiators can just give up the ghost over towards PERMITTA. Eventually, another team's going to go over towards that location and take them out because they have to push towards them on a northern shift, and Gladiators can always just send off towards the western side if they do get the circle moving away from them. So I'm okay with that.
This is a weird fight. TUNA up against Dark Project. Aces, he goes jumping down the hill. He's able to brace himself, but Zero does push in the end and clean up on that one. That's a weird fight to tune into. What remains of the rest of Dark Project now clearing up towards the hillside as well, roaming up the road in the vehicles as they begin to bail out and look for the gunfights. That's where they have to bypass VP. Elementrix in the vehicle, driving around for contact. Pruda takes the first peek. SPG slightly further back down the gulch as well of the hill. So close grouping on this. After kicking it off with a bullet spam, they jump back in the vehicles. We can see Nexus also roaming past as they take on the Nameless.
Yeah, the Nameless just haven't found their step in these games so far. Some of their rotations feel a little bit mad to me. And they've had a lot of difficulty coming through this way. I mean, you can see where Dagestan currently is. The Nameless actually were ahead of them earlier on. Dagestan just sent it directly in towards the western edge of Monte Nuevo. That's just map knowledge. That's just knowledge of the other teams. They know that MUERTE drops in Monte Nuevo. It moved away from there. Not likely anyone else is going to be in Monte Nuevo this early. So I think for Dagestan, just immediately taking over towards Monte Nuevo, very smart from them. VIRTUS.PRO taking losses here and there. Ivaneska gets up close and personal. Elementrix is down. Just one player left remaining. I think that is Ruda on the backside. And VIRTUS.PRO has just crumbled underneath the threat.
With VIRTUS.PRO starting to let their grip slip and make room for other squads, we're seeing both Nexus and MUERTE begin to make plays. And that's a hell of a power play as well. You can see star players in the elimination feed for Major Pride being finished off as Nomi is taken out of fruition in this one. Won't have anything more to say for himself. So Major Pride potentially having to play a bit of a slower affair here because we have an all-out battle between 3 or 4 of our squads in close succession, with SPG now also wanting a piece of the pie. Beck for VP, low on life, eats the nade, still has enough to commit to the fight though. Can't really back off to heal on this one. He's got to go all in and gamble on picking up the frag. Tries to peek it with the SMG and hit the shots, just tickles them. Wraps back round with the blue now because this is his only option. Knows they're chasing him. They're quick on his tail. SPG giving a bit of space. MUERTE in the back as well, with Malue trying to line up a shot. This is a weird one.
Look at this from Gladiators as well. I think this is I was about to say it's good because they don't expose themselves. It's something they've done far too many times in the past, which is where a fight is concluding and then they get involved in the third party, and that gives time for teams to quickly make the 180 sweep, have the survey of the land and take shots back. And for Gladiators, it's likely a case that Tixi just drops Matic in the vehicle, sends him back to cover, or res him there. That could have been a very bad moment. Luckily, they were far enough back, because I do think that that is an issue that they've started to fix now, where either they'll commit too early as a full squad, or they won't commit early enough as a full squad, or they'll commit too late as a full squad. So Gladiators, they take the in-between there, which is rightly so. You see if you can get any exit picks as the team leaves, because you've not got there fast enough, and then you just move back to cover. And luckily, Matic was in a position where, because they haven't moved too far, he's resable, gets back to cover, 4-man team, zone 4. Excellent news right now for Gladiators.
It is hilarious as well, watching the positions that Titan have been playing for quite some time. That's a blinder of a shot. Oh, mate. That's a clean one. Gets the tag off. Titan's still just going to stay in the position they've been hunkering down on, though. Meanwhile, MUERTE actually do lose a man. Seems like a heavy connection off from the wayside, as there's been a bit of a tag out onto them, so that'll soften them up a little bit. NEXUS here just lurking as well. Gladiator's the one that are thrown into the thick of it with SBG. And you can see a few of our top squads starting to suffer a little bit now. KASIK team, Dagestan, and MUERTE in a split mind of having to go for a res.
I think for MUERTE, it kind of makes sense that they would take a knock here. Specifically because Dagestan is pressuring them. The reason they move out from Monte Nuevo towards this spot is it gives them a better chance of taking control over that center ground to win the game from. For Dagestan, eventually they're going to have to leave Monte Nuevo. MUERTE knows that. Dagestan knows this. And that's where life gets really hard, because you just move out into open area. You can see there that Shifu and Limbo tried to breach the ground towards the outside and did get taken down. To move immediately back. Good 2 knocks here from Gladiators. Up to 7 limbs already. Starting to find that groove again.
They're bopping. They can feel the music, it seems, the way they're starting to bump their way through these past couple of fights. Corker adding as well as he blows away Zero. He's fishing with explosives as TUNA have been blown clean out of things in 12th place here on the 5th circle. Rotation now coming in for both KONINA Power and Titan. Titan, they saw that from a distance away, realizing, okay, we're all crashing on Major Pride, so they try to sideswipe it. They let KONINA Power commit to the fight first, see how much damage they can do. Apparently quite a lot. Palucci and Offhaze massacring everyone in the compound as Major Pride have been taken out of commission, but same can be said for Titan. They've gone up in a puff of smoke. PERMITTA Esports now putting bullets down as well, as they're being able to punish everyone on Alpha. Oh, this is getting intense.
It really is getting intense. I mean, everyone wanted a piece of the action over towards that compound on the south side. It's a horrible spot to be in. We've got a split prediction here. You and Kalaris going for MUERTE, and you know what? That is a strong spot towards that side. And I think that realistically, our predictions between you and Kalaris and me and Maxman are directly opposed against one another. It really depends who's going to come out on top between those two teams. I just think the Gladiators have gone through a couple more fights. They've got that utility. This is something we've seen MUERTE suffer in the past. But everyone wants this compound because it's one of the only safe areas right now down towards this south side. And you need to clear everyone out before you start pushing up towards the north.
Oh, no punches being pulled as they fight for control. NEXUS starting to lose out. They're getting the old shaky legs as the Molotovs are dealing damage. Instead, they burn up. They're going to be able to finish off KONINA Power, but it might be a bit too costly in terms of what you've invested to actually gain control of that compound. Everyone's low. You've got to commit to the heals to try and recover the rest of your team. NEXUS are in a rough spot. If anyone else was close by to engage off the back of that, this could have really unraveled quite quickly. Yeah. They've been blessed, basically, about the positions that are being played by the other squads.
Again, it's come back to what we talked about earlier about that position on the map, right? Is that you have to clear everyone out in the gas station before you can think about even playing on this south side, because a lot of the other teams aren't going to be around this location. They're not going to be playing those warehouses. They're likely to play the ridge where Dagestan currently is on the western side, so they don't have sightlines here. This is just a livable spot. It's not a winning spot. For Nexus to take this game, they need the circle to come hard southeast. Nice shots from Tixi, though. They will clean up the remaining members coming through from PERMITTA. Some shots coming back from MUERTE here towards Matic. MUERTE are kind of out in the open. And Milky Way, once again, he gets caught, Jackie.
Can't afford to keep having mistakes like this. Milky Way shut down for good. MUERTE, that might be something that comes back to bite them in the bottom quite heavily. This is a game where, like we were saying, we were split in terms of the predictions, thinking that it bodes well for the MUERTE finish here at the end of day 4 of the 3rd week of competition. Malloy, he gets hit as well, puts the fear in him. He gets down to the ground. Just buys a bit of time, but look how fragmented the entirety of MUERTE is, basically soloing a lot of these fights. If you're caught in an unfortunate situation, likelihood of being revived and brought back is at a bare minimum. So this is a risky one.
Yeah, this is I really do enjoy this ending. I think a lot of times you can sort of isolate teams into bad fights just by playing on this northern edge. So you get KASIK to fight out against NEXUS, get Zadira to play against NEXUS with Dagestan. Is interesting stuff. And I think the fact that Gladiators play such a good backstop role there to hold Malloy out, because he's outside the circle and he was looking for those tags, it's unlikely Malloy gets into the circle here. Matic will just have a quick peek. He's got the window. He's got the tree, sorry, to play around with. It is so difficult for him, and the blue is starting to push in. Tixi, visible though.
So Malloy, few bullets downrange, gets the connection off initially. Not too much. Not enough for it to become a real big issue. He's peeking over the top of this wall as well. His head ever so slightly being exposed, but he looks confident for it. He's crisp with his connections. Re-engages 3 times to finally commit to it and shuts down Tixi. Now putting bullets down range, spamming into them, hoping that he'll be able to finish someone off. He's denied the hard commit as he's forced out onto the heel. Meanwhile, we see the aggression being displayed by Nexus towards KASIK. Low HP on a few of the players. Big commit with a nade. Lobs that one out. Tags up English and forces him back to join the rest of the team.
Mate, it's massively surprising that Nexus has been able to hit up this compound again. They cleared out all the teams. They made a quick dash over towards these hay bales, and they're in the circle. KASIK realistically shouldn't have allowed this push to happen, yet it goes through anyway. Nexus have definitely been talking a big game here during these matches, just today and yesterday, looking so much better. Meku gets involved with the Vector, takes down Corker, now just Fury in location, and with him being removed, it will just be them. Gladiators, full control on that northern edge.
They're looking in good standing. Gladiators. Can they force themselves towards a chicken dinner on this one? Or is there potential for an upset? One of the sides maybe we haven't seen too much from over the course of this one, surprising us. A Dagestan perhaps being able to go big in the dying moments of it. Tixi with a reposition, struck upon from Furia. He hits the mark, gets himself back down out of cover as well. Protected, but potentially about to be run down. Matic instigates the fight by driving around in the corner. Here comes Kitsune as well. And just runs him straight down.
I was going to say, it's about time that they make this play. In the meantime, though, Dagestan's able to get into a very strong position, just holding the side, but Gladiators might just be able to walk up behind them. This fight has to extend itself. KASIK, though, move in, will remove Nexus. A difficult play to make, but one that they get done here. Gladiators, again, Tixi, crawling forward to predict the nade, heading towards that backside. Very smart there. Will avoid detection. Everyone very low, looting up, trying to get new vests, new helmets, because they are tattered, broken, bruised, but looking to go on.
Dagestan. They've been able to reset themselves quite nicely. It looked uncomfortable. When you saw the aggression from KASIK team, Dagestan, they were still trying to put the bandages on, get everyone back up and kicking. Now we're at level pegging across all 3 of our remaining squads here into stage 7. Gladiators with 4, KASIK with 4, and Dagestan right in the dead center with 4 players as well. Limbo, the only one that's operating on his lonesome, anchoring towards the backhand side and trying to keep the pressure on. Meanwhile, KASIK team, on top of the bodies that they were able to find, scavenging as much as they can. They should be restocked on ammunition, utility, and have everything else they'd want in terms of heals to actually have some sustainability into this one. Gladiators have got good angles as well. Matic, he moves up, gets the opening contact off, but Dagestan reply.
Yeah, this realistically should have been something they knew about as well. And I like what Dagestan do here. They leave KASIK to their devices, right? Limbo has eyes on towards them. They understand they can just let Limbo keep taking shots towards KASIK team because Gladiators are going to be the real threat in the endgame. But it's Trofka. He runs up. He makes a miracle move through the field, up to the edge.
Trofka closing the distance between them, hoping that his surprising play might be enough to tip the scales in favor of KASIK team. Meanwhile, Limbo, we highlighted him earlier because his position could be hugely influential. He's the one that's got to combat Trofka. If he can be the early warning system, the tripwire to shut it down, they might be able to overwhelm what remains of KASIK team and then set themselves up for the final fight. Gladiators, you can see, keeping the spacing clean, not going too far on this one.
Yeah, there's a little bit of cover still available for them, but Dagestan has to keep watching backwards. I love this play from Trofka, though. Although the nades, they aren't getting a huge amount done in terms of damage, but what they are doing is keeping them off this angle. It allows Unicorn to actually head up a little bit further, and Limbo just isn't doing enough. Out come the nades, out come the smokes, enabling Gladiators to get a little bit closer, and Trofka picks his moment perfectly. Again, gets a bit further into this one, recalls the rest of the team.
They're all grouping up on Trofka's mark. He's called for the rotation, mirroring what we're seeing here from Gladiators. The bird's eye point of view giving us a great display of the way this one is shaping up as the battlefield is set for what should be our final fight here in the last battleground of today's playday. It kicks off with Keep striking onto Tixi, eliminating the opening fragger for Gladiators. They take more names. It's Limbo assaulting back onto KASIK team. Dagestan right now leading with all four alive as they've taken one player out of either squad and they're committing to it. Zardia running down Meku. He's got a double back, but they're so low blank, and in comes the vehicle, the dive bomb.
There has to be more here from Gladiators. Tixi does not do enough, and they'll be taken out. A really smart move from Dagestan to immediately turn tail, run directly at the Gladiators, remove them after that initial knock. So smart, but KASIK team want to go further. Great nade from Mingish over towards Shifu. Do Dagestan still have it in them to finish this game, Jackie, after what has been an incredible play from the outside of Monty Nuevo?
Dagestan, they've been rolling with the punches, they've been making all the right calls, but now it's down to their individual skill to save their bacon in this one. Low in terms of the battle of attrition. They're losing players, but they're being able to find trades. They bring it back onto a 3 versus 3. All the nades in the world in the back pockets of KASIK from all of the death boxes they had access to. They just keep bolting them out, one after another, detonating close by. That one's going to be perfectly on the money as well. Zardia loses a ton of HP, but no confidence as he peeks back up and silences English.
Limbo's down now. Catastrophic events are happening. Zadira has to hit a big nade over towards them, but you can see the amount of utility that's flying by. Just keep remaining. KASIK have fought through hell to get here.
But they've got to try and survive this, the final gauntlet, as they move on up. The nades detonating perfectly to blow one man away, but that's the team nade coming out. It all goes a bit up in the air. Dagestan couldn't hold on in the final moments as Team KASIK will snatch away the crown and guarantee the chicken dinner.
Trofka as well with the final elimination, when we've been bigging this guy up all day, Jackie. And for good reason as well. The fact he's able to get up towards that ridge side in the midst of that commotion, send the nades over the top, keep Dagestan at bay, force them off that ridge line, and then he just like basically is looking back towards his team, gives them the bright eyes, beckons them over, they run across to him, they're safe. It's a serious hero play coming through from Trofka and a hero game from KASIK.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting, right? That in final development there, those few minutes with Gladiators, KASIK, and Dagestan, it gave us everything we sort of wanted. Very good push and pull sort of game. The tug of war of PUBG Mobile on true display there. But that's what we had to think about it. Let's get back over to the desk for one final time today and talk about that banger.
Big win for a big game. It was kind of up in the air as to who was going to take that in the end, but we have ourselves a victor, Max. And I think ultimately, it feels like these past 2 games, the end games have been a little bit slower, to say the least, but, you know, ultimately it was able to figure itself out here in what is a bit difficult terrain.
Yeah, a little bit of a standoff situation you had in the end of these last 2 matches, especially this one where you had 4v4v4 that was happening between these teams of Gladiators, Dagestan, and KASIK team. But yeah, I really do want to echo what Blank was saying towards the end there. Like, Trufka has been the hero player of the team. He was able every single time something was happening from Dagestan or Gladiator side to just go a little bit further in the center of the circle. Then he was able to make it to the ridge side, and when you get it to the ridge, you can allow your entire team to transition to that central position. So if Trofka was not there and doing those movements, I think that there is no way in hell they get themselves that chicken dinner. So good on Trofka and good on KASIK team to get those 18 points.
Especially timing-wise as well. I mean, especially since ultimately those 2 teams on those high ground positions, yeah, okay, they're kind of embroiled in fights and stuff like that. There's still a world where if you don't make that transition exactly when you do as KASIK team, you can still be held out pretty hard against a position like that. So good stuff by them to be able to make it work here just outside Monte Nuevo. I mean, for Dagestan as well, though, they were in this area for a long time because they've got such a position on that east side of Monte. So for them to be able to get themselves up to the position that they were in, good stuff too.
Yeah, and not only that, I think they were in Monte Nuevo initially, and they were trying their best to get clearance on all of the teams that were trying to escape the western or the southern side of the circle. So they were just trying to eliminate, I think there was like at one point Major Pride, there was Nexus also at the south that they were able to push away, MUERTE also at some point. So they were just trying to create that space to then facilitate their transition. So yeah, they were doing a lot of work there. And their push on Gladiators, I think it's fair to say, was a bit of a mess, Kalaris. It was a bit all over the place, but 2 exact same damage.
Wait a minute.
Wait.
No way.
I haven't seen this before. I don't. This is rare.
We're being informed that this is correct, which actually is pretty unheard of. To be down to the point, exactly the same. Wow, KASIK team and Gladiators. It's pre-planned synchronized swimming.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I think since like 2019 covering PUBG Mobile, the same damage of a team on that one shown on the graphic. But yeah, the conversion rate a little bit higher for Gladiators though, of course. They were making some really strong transition points away from power grid, downhill, getting clearance of a lot of those teams up there, such as SBG, I think, in particular. So yeah, Gladiators still have the chops on this map. And I think we saw the average survival time, right, Kalaris, was, what, 23 minutes average on Miramar? That's really, really strong. So it's hard to, like, say that they're not a consistent team on this map.
Yeah, definitely. Impressive stuff. Well, let's move on then and take a look at the highlights and see exactly how things were going down. Fights in Valdemar to start things off, and SBG trying to get things going with the DBS, the jump shots from PME. It's all popping off, Max.
Oh yeah, with the PPB song. Didn't see it, unfortunately, there, but they could have, if they had it, they could have looted it up. But a lot of rotations happening around power grid. Teams wanted to try and dodge it as much as they possibly could. And actually, one team I want to mention here, Nexus, on an absolute tear in the southern edge. They were just third-partying fights all the time. There was also, I think, a 2-2 split from Major Pride that they came in and punished really significantly. Then third-party the fight versus KONINA Power. Like, Nexus won an absolute warpath in the south. So they still have the fragging power. I mean, we know this team, right, Kalaris, they have what it takes to perform in the championship, such as in spring. And I would still like to see a new iteration of this team, like, you know, playing in championship and see if they still have what it takes to win that. But yeah, good game from them in the south, and this third party in particular, the timing was good. When KONINA Power were at their weakest, and they're able to easily sweep it away.
I mean, there's so much room for them to look better than they currently do. I mean, even though, of course, you know, they do all right in this game and stuff like that, still, Nexus has an opportunity to eventually have more consistency about them. It's just that I think the lobby in general here in EU has leveled up around them so much. I've said it across multiple days here. The level of play looks phenomenal in some of the decision making, some of these late games, etc. So it's just hard to keep up with that, Max. It's hard to keep up with it.
There's not a lot of your original Western European teams, right? Like, they're one of the few remaining with, like, you know, your Shockwaves, SBGs of CIS teams now. So they're still able to keep stay on top of things sometimes, but it is rough. Like, I would say this year the toughest the European region has ever been.
Oh, yeah.
You have to really step up significantly if you want to stay relevant in the conversation. I mean, they showed in the championship of spring, right? They definitely have what it takes, but like when you look at Major Pride, MADBULLS, what these guys are doing, like, it's just so hard to compete. So I understand it's tough, but so far their goal is going to be championship and see after maybe PMGC if things work out.
Hard to compete, and the winners looked great today. Let's take a look back and see what happened here throughout the 5 battlegrounds, because it was a lot of the big names taking away big chicken dinners here for the day. We started off with Major Pride looking fantastic. Then we almost have ourselves very close to back-to-back wins here from MADBULLS, but Titan will be sandwiched on in there for the Sanhok game, which really kind of came down to the wire when it came to going up against Alpha Team, Max.
I really wanted my Alpha Team win. I was going to say for that Sanhok game, I feel like there was a big chance, but Potentic was a little bit too adventurous, and then they just sent Unicorns of Love onto them, and it just caused so many issues for the squad. But yeah, it was a really good day today. I'm stoked to see how things have been working out. Still have that cool Major Pride MADBULLS rivalry at the top, and I mean, we're now more than halfway done with this tournament, right, for the league stage at least. So it's intriguing to see if we can still see changes from teams at the bottom in these next days, because there's still a lot of room for teams to make these changes and to hopefully reach the finals.
All right, now we've got to think about who we believe is the MVP, and I've got a name in mind. How about yourself, Max?
Oh, it's tough. I didn't think about it. I mean, I'm gonna go with a MADBULLS player. I feel like you have to. Let's go Flicker. You know what?
I was gonna go Frozen. So
good one, true. Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Furia!
Yes!
Ah!
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I can't take it away.
You know, up until the point where MADBULLS get themselves 2 victories, Furia was going to be my pick. Because look what he did in that first game, especially, right? Like, they were absolutely popping off with MUERTE.
He was just handling the entire team at that point. It was... I really enjoy what Furia's been able to do. Ever since PMRC Europe versus Africa, he really showed what he can do as a solo player, and has been able to slowly transition and come to fruition more and more in this season of PMPL Europe, so I'm really stoked about that. But Furia is definitely the standout player for MUERTE, and you still don't only have him, right? The other players like Malloy are doing great, but Furia is in a different league. Yeah.
Do you still have the stats page open? Because I'm curious as to how close the MADBULLS guys were to him for the day.
Actually, nowhere close.
Nowhere close?
Nowhere close, actually. Wait, is it? Am I on the right stats page? Yeah, I am. Phase 2, day 4. It's Furia followed up by Korka, then Meku, then Tixi, Dokimi for Vulgar Boys. That's good. Don't see that often.
Interesting.
Yeah, like they're super low. Like it is Frozen, but he's like way down there. Like,
okay, well,
yeah, fair enough.
Clearly we're rubbish, I guess. But I tell you, I was totally rubbish when it came to predictions throughout the day. I was very, very bad. I think I may have got 1 point on the board or something like that. But let's take a look at the overalls. This is combined rankings from phases 1 and phase 2. And again, when we look at this, what I really want to emphasize here is the difference between MADBULLS and Major Pride, because I think for the PMGC points, of course, MADBULLS had to be about 100 points ahead of Major Pride to even make the initial catch-up here, Max.
Yeah.
And then Major Pride is not doing too bad to try and keep that status quo going.
I think it was 96 points, so like pretty much 100 points. Yeah, and they were able to close that gap in like one phase when I thought that, not even a phase, half a phase at that point. So it was really quick to see how MADBULLS were able to close that gap, then actually overtake it. But Major Pride, I think, understood that a fire was lit underneath them. They had to start bringing points in, getting those placement points, get those eliminations, which is exactly what they have been doing in this second phase. 305 points currently, trying to catch up as much as they possibly can, because do keep in mind that the overall rankings also award you bonus points heading into the finals. Not just the phases, the overall rankings too. So far, MADBULLS won phase 1. They're going to get, with a lead like this, possibly another 20-point bonus purely off of the overall rankings, and maybe also in phase 2 because they're currently competing with Major Pride. So yeah, MADBULLS are just the kings of consistency, but Major Pride can bring it back and already have started doing so.
Yep, looking all right there. That's our top 8 at the moment. Of course, as Gladiators is in 4th place, we take a look to our 9th through 16th, and there's the potential that some teams like KASIK team and VULGAR boys, if they're able to continue doing well here in phase 2, could actually bump up in these rankings, and then again, as you say, gain themselves some extra bonus points going into that final.
Look at the French, 208 points tied up. Let's go.
Whoa!
Whoa! So
Is there something special about the number 208 in French, or?
I will check. I don't know. Pretty sure.
Absolutely not. No.
No, definitely not. But yeah, SPG Shockwave down there. We still expect more. To be honest, despite SPG still having some really strong players on their side, Shockwave is looking like the better team, especially recently. They've started to step up significantly. They still have these issues of taking early game fights, and it gets a bit hectic towards the end of the game because they don't have the resources or the players to wrap up matches.
Yep.
But if it keeps going this way, I feel like Shockwave is going to overtake SPG as like the best French team. And maybe, who knows, maybe get a little bit higher at the end. I'd like to see it, but it's, as we said multiple times, right, Kalaris, the lobby is so tough.
Yeah.
All these teams originally from Western Europe, so it's hard to compete.
Oh, definitely. Let's take a look at our predictions then and see how hard it was for me to compete against Max. Because...
oh, damn! Wait, was I that good? What did I do?
Apparently. Wait a minute, let me check.
I don't think... Is this right?
You might have rigged some numbers. Let's see. No, you were actually pretty good.
Oh, I am. I'm a god. Hell yeah.
Well, whoa. Stay on. All right, calm down. Meanwhile, us mere mortals down here, Kalaris and Jackie, absolute shambles here. Somehow Blank with his weird hair has been able to also beat us. That's impressive, Max.
It's the weird hair buff. What can I tell you? That's how it goes.
That's the weird hair buff. Yeah, because as we all know, you've got the weirdest. All right, well, let's...
I don't have any. Yeah.
All right, we're done. Thank you to Monster for joining us here for PMPL EU Fall. It has been a pleasure here for, I was about to say day number 1, but it's day 4 of the phase. So it's just that I get mixed up and with everything that's going on. It's a crazy time, Max, in esports. But anyway, we are done for today. We are back tomorrow, same time, same place. So thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow for more PUBG Mobile action.